He had just killed a human. The realization stuck in. He didn't feel anything before. However, now that he was alone, he finally realized what he had done. To be honest, he still didn't feel anything much, however. As he glanced at the two bodies in front of him, his heart started beating quickly. His movements paused. Looking at those motionless bodies and the eerie silence that had enshrouded the whole area, Nux felt something strange. He couldn't point out what it was. However, he knew something was different. Nux then closed his eyes and started breathing calmly. This was something Thyra had told him to do when she was suggesting different ways to get over his first kill. The best way is to accept it. However, it was not as easy as it sounded. Sometimes people won't even realize that they haven't accepted it yet. The same was happening with Nux right now. He might feel nothing was happening, however, deep inside, something still bothered him. For someone like him, the best way is to try and forget about everything for a time being. And he can't use anyone's help for that. He had to do it on his own. Nux then sat cross-legged and started meditating. 15 minutes later, he opened his eyes. He didn't look at the bodies, he just continued digging, and once the hole was big enough, he kicked the two bodies inside it and started refilling the hole. Then he returned. Thyra noticed that he looked a little lost. She understood. Nux would be able to hold on if someone, or more specifically, one of his women is beside him. However, the same can't be said for when he is alone. Once he is alone, he would start thinking about all of this and wouldn't be able to sleep at night. This was a problem. However, he was still doing a lot better than she thought. All right, this would be enough for today. Nux frowned. That's it? Well, the training isn't over. The real training starts after you have killed the person. Your brain has registered it, however, your heart hasn't. You have to stay alone for a while, introspect, and then finally get used to this new, strange feeling. Of course, this wasn't something that can be done in days. You need some more time. However, I feel that you will be able to do it faster than normal. You are different from others after all. Thyra smiled. Nux nodded, and the two of them returned to their tent. There, Thyra and Nux slept in different tents. Nux didn't sleep, he just closed his eyes and thought about what had happened. He still felt that he hasn't done something wrong, therefore he didn't feel any guilt. Then what was this strange feeling? He didn't know. And he didn't know if he could ever understand what it is. The next day, Nux woke up. He and Thyra walked around the army camp. Although he was a little gloomier than normal, he still looked fine. Seeing that, Thyra smiled. In the night, she went out with him again. This time, Nux killed another human and they returned. This continued for the next 4 days. By now, Nux has killed 6 humans. However, his reaction to it wasn't as strong as before. He had even started flirting with Thyra and Ember. He still wasn't completely over it. On the 5th night, Thyra and Nux were running towards a city, and just as they were about to reach their destination, Thyra muttered, "We are going to increase the difficulty level now." How are we going to increase the difficulty level? Killing more humans? No, we are going to increase the strength of the human we will kill. You are already used to killing humans by now. From now on, you will start assassinating strong humans using the techniques I taught you. Saying that, Thyra passed a paper to Nux. Clayton Brook. In the Woods dynasty, his status is similar to a marquis. He is a Grand Master Stage cultivator who uses his status to oppress commoners. He is part of many frauds. He has raped many women, killed a lot of men, and is an unforgivable person. However, he always uses his status to dodge any punishments. Today, we're going to get clean this trash from the world, Thyra explained. Thyra, Suddenly, Nux frowned. "What? We are not warriors of justice, Thyra. This is the Woods Dynasty problem. Why do we have to take care of it? We just want a target. Why bother researching so much?" While I was trained as an assassin, there were 3 stages of killing. First, where I was made to kill a person who deserved to be killed. Since I deemed that the person should have been killed, it was easier for me to get over the fact that I killed him. This is what I am doing for you by choosing targets that you feel should be killed. The second stage is where you start killing people for your own advantage. As long as killing that person benefits you enough, you will kill. I killed people while I was about to break the next stage. Under the pressure of fighting against those people, I grew faster than normal, and I got stronger after killing them, which, in the end, would help me survive in this world later. I killed. For you, this will happen when you participate in the war. Killing the enemy soldiers will help your allies, and it will reduce the number of casualties among your soldiers. This will be your reason to kill. For a king, as long as killing someone benefits him or his country, he should raise his sword. The last stage is where you kill indiscriminately. Right, wrong, innocent, criminal, it doesn't matter. You just kill since you were ordered. Thyra's eyes then shined in determination as she grabbed Nux's hand with her 2 hands. However, I will not let you move to the last stage. I will not allow you to turn into an emotionless killing machine. You don't have to walk into that marsh. If you ever need an emotionless killing machine, I will be there to do that dirty work for you." Beside the table, there was a bed, and on the bed, there was a man. The man wanted to say something, however, he was choking on his own blood. Words didn't come out of his mouth, even though he was trying his hardest. He wasn't able to breathe anymore. Therefore, the only thing he could do was glare at the 2 beings standing in front of him in hatred while trying to make as much sound as possible. He knew that he will lose his life soon. However, he wanted to make sure that these 2 bastards responsible for it dies with him. Therefore, he wanted his guards to come and see how he was assassinated in his own room. The man was Clayton Brooke, and the one who assassinated him was Nux. Clayton wanted revenge. He was so blinded in his rage that he didn't even notice that the one killing him was an expert stage cultivator, someone who could easily kill anyone who enters after hearing that sound. Actually, even if he did notice it, he would have done the same. Even if he can't kill the people who killed him, at least someone would follow him in his death. It wasn't like his guard was out of fault. He was the one who failed to protect him after all. Shouldn't he lose his life because of this? That was completely fair in Clayton's eyes. Soon, Clayton heard footsteps. He smiled. It was his subordinate. He knew it. However, his smile died soon. The person who killed him and the one following him, they were running away. They had jumped out of the window. Clayton's heart shuddered. He grabbed the bedsheets tightly and started looking around, trying to throw something else to call the guard sooner. However, Nux and Thyra had already left the room. By the time his guard entered, "Lord Clayton!" It was already too late. Clayton lost his life. The last scene he saw was his guard rushing towards him with a panicked look on his face. He couldn't even see a beauty in his last moment. Tisk tisk, poor bastard indeed. Brooks' house fell into panic as the news about the death of Clayton Brooks spread like fire. On the other side, the people who caused this incident, they were just running away with a calm look on their faces. Thyra, who was following behind Nux, was smiling. Nux was doing a lot better than she had imagined. Killing a human didn't affect him as much as she thought it would. She understood that the reason behind that might be her. Since she was with her, he was able to cope up. She became her support. Thinking about it, Thyra smiled. This made her happy. Actually, the moment she met Ember, she realized that soon she won't be the strongest within the harem. She won't be Nux's source of strength anymore. She wanted to be selfish and stop Ember and Nux from getting close. However, she knew that if she used the normal way, reaching the king stage would take decades. This would stop Nux's progress as well. Therefore, she backed off. Ember was important. Even though she will lose her importance, Ember was still important. And realizing this importance, Thyra didn't try to stop Nux from getting close to Ember. Heck, she was even willing to help him. "We're here. Activate your conceal." While Thyra was lost in her thoughts, Nux's voice sounded. Thyra came out of her reverie and did as she was told. The two of them then walked into Nux's tent, and there Thyra smiled. "You did a good job today." Nux glanced at his hands and nodded. "I didn't feel much today when I was killing that man." You'll get used to it soon. Now we can take a step forward and continue your training," Thyra muttered. "What are we going to do?" Nux questioned. "You'll restrict your cultivation to the point that you are actually weaker than your target, and then you will assassinate him. A good assassin can kill a target stronger than him. Remember, no matter how powerful your opponents are, as long as your dagger pierces their heart, they die," Thyra muttered with a smile. "We'll take it slow, don't worry." "I like it when it's slow as well. You moan louder if I start slow and then ram it in one go." Nux nodded to himself. "Ch!" Thyra looked at Nux with an expressionless look on her face. Nux, however, could notice the tinge of red on her face and smiled widely. Teasing the serious Thyra is indeed the best. He didn't know why or how, but the serious Thyra is just too hot for him to not do anything. "Ka, ka, ka," Nux laughed strangely. "Nux, it's 11:57. Why aren't you here yet?" While Nux was thinking all this, he heard a voice. Then he soon realized that he had to use his free teleport for the day, because if he didn't, he would be stuck in this place. He then looked at Thyra and smiled. "All right, my lovely assassin, I'll leave now. Your sisters are calling me." "All right," Thyra pouted. However, in the end, she could only nod. Then Nux disappeared and reappeared in front of Allura, who was looking at him with a seductive smile on her face. As Nux's eyes fell on Allura, they widened in surprise. This woman, she was completely naked right now. "How was your day, my love?" Allura questioned as she placed her right leg on top of the left, teasing Nux with her alluring movements. "Gulp?" Nux gulped. Then he walked towards her with a big smile on his face. "It was good. However, I feel that it would become even better soon," he said, then pushed Allura into the bed and then placed his hands on top of hers. Allura looked into his golden-colored eyes and smiled. "You are perceptive." Then a long night followed. "Assistant General Nux, Assistant General Thyra, the General has called for you." A soldier saluted and then told what he was here for. Nux looked at the soldier and nodded. "We will be there soon." "Yes, sir." The soldier saluted again and left. Nux then turned to Thyra and smiled. "It is finally starting." "Well, it is just a meeting right now. It hasn't started yet," Thyra replied. It would be my first time attending a meeting like this," Nux muttered. "This would be the first for me as well." Thyra nodded her head. The two then held each other's hand and walked towards the general's camp. As they entered, their eyes fell on 4 people sitting inside the tent around the big round table. They were Ember and her 3 deputy generals. As Ember's eyes fell on Thyra and Nux, she smiled. "Well then, as you all already know, they are the help sent by my close friend, Assistant General Nux and Assistant General Thyra." "Yeah, we already know about them, General. The 2 who have come here to assist us, however, are unwilling to show their faces to us. We know them well. Nux and Thyra, there are chances that their names are fake as well." A deputy general snorted. He wasn't alone. Most of the deputy generals didn't have positive attitudes towards Nux and Thyra. Of course, the two of them didn't care. For Nux, as long as the general smiled at him and treated him well, he was fine. As for Thyra, well, as long as Nux is fine, she was fine as well. Therefore, the two of them ignored their remarks and walked into the camp. "So, what are we called for?" Thyra questioned in her usual cold tone. Ember, who saw that Thyra was still fiery as ever, smiled, and then she winked at Nux. Thyra saw that, and she narrowed her eyes. Then she tightened her grip around Nux's arm. "You didn't call us here just so you could try to eye on another woman's hand, right?" Thyra questioned. Ember smiled in satisfaction, and then her eyes turned serious. "Have a seat. We're discussing something important." Thyra and Nux looked at each other, and then they sat down on the chairs. Then the general placed a map on the table and started. This all started 100 years ago, when the Solid Earth Kingdom entered the forbidden area inside the Blood Hill Wilderness. Since they lost a considerable amount of strength, the other three powers took this opportunity and attacked. Of course, it wasn't a major attack, and the Solid Earth Kingdom didn't lose much in this. However, the boundary line between the four kingdoms shifted a little. Just like other powers, the Woods dynasty didn't lose this opportunity and attacked. In that war, we won the High Crane Fort, a good defense location that belonged to the Solid Earth Kingdom. However, 2 years ago, the Solid Earth Kingdom, which didn't do much even though their land was taken from them, finally moved. With an overwhelmingly strong force, they overpowered our men staying in the High Crane Fort and took back the land that belonged to them. If they had only taken what belonged to them, things wouldn't have been that complicated. However, they didn't stop there. With their immense momentum, they continued and captured our Death Spike Fort as well. The general then narrowed her eyes. They were ruthless with their moves and didn't spare any soldiers. More than 10,000 soldiers died. We, the Woods dynasty, cannot let this slide. Therefore, I was ordered to reclaim our Death Spike Fort. Our strategy is simple. We will use our Piercing Flame Squad to destroy their walls, our Absolute Earth Squad to defend our Piercing Flame Squad. Then, after we destroy their walls, we will move with full force and reclaim our fort." The general smiled. However, hearing this, Nux frowned even more. "Isn't this too simple?" he questioned. "This strategy, even a child could come up with something like this." Thyra agreed with Nux's thoughts. This sounded too simple for a war plan. Were they hiding something from them? Were they still doubtful of them and not revealing their full plan in front of them? Thyra believed that something like this was possible. However, Ember shook her head. "You are right, this is a simple strategy. And the reason behind this is that the outcome of this war is already decided. The Woods dynasty would win. And I am saying this not because I am arrogant, but because I have a reason to back up my words. Since the Solid Earth Kingdom attacked us and took back their fort, it is clear that they are planning to take back their other forts as well. And to do that, they would need soldiers. There is no way they would use all their soldiers here. It would have been different if we were attacking their High Crane Fort. However, since we will only take back what was ours, they won't retaliate much." Ember smiled. Hearing her words, Nux frowned even more. "If it was that simple, then why were you, a king stage cultivator, sent here?" Ember smiled. "As I said, we are not going there to just win, we're winning overwhelmingly. You can say that we're going to make a statement to the world. The Woods dynasty is strong, absurdly strong. Do not mess with us." This time, Thyra frowned. "So, if you want to show that, then why not take the High Crane Fort as well? Only then will you be able to make that statement." Hearing that, the general smiled wryly. "Well, the Woods dynasty is strong, however, the Solid Earth Kingdom is strong as well." Nux's brows furrowed in confusion. However, Thyra finally understood what was happening. "So this is all just a farce," she muttered. A farce? Nux finally realized it as well. Ember smiled. "Yes, you two are correct. This is not a war. It is just a farce that was arranged by the solid Earth Kingdom to take back the territories they had lost. I assume that the two kingdoms had planned it before. We are just pawns here, pawns playing the game they have orchestrated." "Pawns playing the game they have orchestrated," Ember muttered with a small smile on her face, and the tent turned silent. The three deputy generals didn't say anything. It seemed like they knew about this as well. Thyra and Nux looked at each other, and Nux narrowed his eyes. Playing the game someone else has orchestrated. He didn't like this feeling at all. However, it doesn't matter. Nux heard Thyra's words in his mind. Even if it is all just a farce, you will still gain a lot out of it. You will get what you are here for. Then Thyra glanced at Ember, and her blue eyes shined. Heck, you will get something far more important than you hoped for, no matter how you look at it. You are benefiting from this game, so don't think about useless stuff and play. Hearing her words, Nux smiled. Indeed, things like these did not matter. Also, this made sense. His teacher still didn't know how strong he was. In her eyes, he was just a normal expert stage cultivator who has decent swordsmanship. An expert stage cultivator was strong, however, that didn't mean that his teacher would send her student to participate in a war. She must have known from the start. This war was just a farce, a perfect place where Nux can train without worrying about many things. "So when are we attacking?" Nux smiled and questioned. A smile appeared on Ember's face as she nodded. 2 days. We would attack 2 days later and would end this farce in 1 hour. We won't be wasting any more time than this. Nux smiled. "I understand." Then the meeting ended. A few minutes later, Nux and Thyra returned back to their camp. Talk about disappointment, Nux sighed. Thyra just smiled, and then she started removing her skin-tight clothes. Nux understood her intentions. Therefore, just like the good and supportive man he is, he helped her remove her clothes. Then another session continued. Just like that, 2 blissful days passed by, and today was the day of the war. The Woods dynasty's army was prepared. With loud and thunderous steps, they marched towards the Death Spike Fort. Just like other deputy generals, Nux was standing alongside Ember. Right now, he was wearing his black assassin clothes, and on top of that, he wore shiny armor. Even though his face was covered, he looked quite dashing just with his posture and aura alone. However, out of everyone on the battlefield, only Thyra understood his inner thoughts just by looking at his face. Nux was nervous, and how could he not be? There were a total of 60,000 men standing in front of him. This many people. It was his first time seeing something like this. And these people would soon participate in an all-out war. Any sane person would be nervous in this situation. However, unlike him, Ember was confident. Then she stepped forward and, "Soldiers!" she roared, gaining the attention of 60,000 soldiers in front of her. "The solid earth bastards dared to take what is ours. Can we accept it without doing anything? No way! Are we just going to sit in our houses and let our enemies underestimate us? No way! Then are we going to fight back? Yes, we will! Are we going to destroy the solid earth bastards? Yes, we will!" Ember smiled, satisfied by the scene in front of her. Nux, who heard 60,000 people shouting together in perfect sync, was taken aback. He was overwhelmed by the immense energy these soldiers radiated. However, what overwhelmed him even more was beautiful. The black, red-haired woman who was commanding these 60,000 soldiers. Their leader, the general, Ember Windstar, this woman, she looked too charming right now. Nux was completely lost in her voice. "Soldiers, formation!" Ember ordered. The soldiers then arranged themselves into the formation, and then, "March!" Ember roared. "Yeah!" The soldiers roared loudly. Their roar was so loud. "Stop! Stop marching forward!" Nux shouted at the top of his lungs. The soldiers stopped marching, and many of them didn't believe this assistant general. However, in the end, he had a higher rank than them, therefore they could only agree and do what he had ordered. The general and the deputy generals frowned as they saw this. However, Nux didn't care about it and shouted again. "Step back! Step back, quick!" "Huh? What are you trying to do, you bastard? Keep in mind, you are someone who is allowed to roam wherever you want on the battlefield. However, this does not mean you can order other soldiers as you will." A deputy general shouted in anger. "Soldiers, march forward!" he ordered. Seeing the two higher-ups fighting with each other, the soldiers frowned in confusion. What are they supposed to do now? Nux then looked at the deputy general, and then he directly turned towards the general. "Order them to come back," he shouted in a fierce tone. "Why?" Ember questioned. "I don't have time. Just Ah!" Nux wanted to reply. However, soon everyone heard the soldiers' screams. Nux, Thyra, Ember, and the deputy generals turned around, and their eyes widened in surprise when they saw large black-colored spikes impaling more than 2,000 soldiers. The rest of the soldiers panicked and started running back in panic. The enemy soldiers, however, didn't give them this chance and started shooting their arrows to kill any soldier they can. They had the high ground. They would be fools if they didn't use this advantage. "Death spikes!" A deputy general's eyes widened in surprise. How is this possible? The Death Spike Fort belonged to the Woods dynasty in the first place. There is no way the deputy generals wouldn't know what those spikes were. The Death Spike Fort was a fort that had spikes surrounding it from all directions. No matter how many soldiers stood on the top of these spikes, once they are activated, they would pierce through their bodies and would kill everyone. It was a lethal defense system that the fort was named on. However, although it was strong, this defense system wasn't used much. The reason was simple. It required a large amount of mana to activate it. Even a king stage cultivator won't be able to activate it. Mana of 30,000 beginner stage cultivators is needed to activate this trap. "They shouldn't have enough manpower to activate this fort," a deputy general screamed. Ember frowned. She did not expect to lose around 2,000 soldiers before the battle even began. "There are many, many soldiers in that fort. The number far surpassed the 20,000 soldiers you were talking about. If you want a rough estimation, there should be around 50,000 soldiers in that fort," Nux reported. Ember's eyes widened in surprise. "How could that be?" a deputy general questioned. "I don't have any reason to lie," Nux replied with a solemn expression on his face. The deputy general turned silent. Ember looked at Nux and nodded. "We cannot doubt him right now. He saved our soldiers. If he wanted, he could have just stayed silent and we would lose our 2 squads before they could even do any damage. We should believe his words." "Then what are we going to do now?" one of the deputy generals panicked. Their plans, everything was going awry right now. Ember, however, was different from the deputy general. She was a lot calmer. She started assessing the situation calmly. With Nux's help, the Death Spike failed and was unable to do as much damage as it could. The best way to use Death Spike is to use 20,000 soldiers to activate it. Those soldiers have already used half of their mana. We shouldn't give them the time to recover. We will use this chance and attack. But how are we going to break through their walls? With the Death Spike in the equation, there is no way those soldiers would be able to get near the fort walls. Order them to attack from where they are standing, Ember instructed. Huh? From that far? The piercing fire squad would have to use twice the amount of mana to do that. Don't worry, we already have the advantage in terms of mana. All we need to do is break the walls. Once we succeed in that, they won't be able to access the death spikes anymore. The Deputy General's gazes turned serious. Then they looked at each other and nodded. Yes, General. They saluted and then rushed towards the soldiers. The soldiers were panicking. Something like a speech won't help them. Therefore, although it was faster than planned, the Deputy Generals had to move. Piercing Fire Squad, heed my orders. A Deputy General, the one who had the Piercing Fire Squad under his command, shouted loudly. Absolute Earth Squad, stand tall. We still have comrades that we need to defend. The Deputy General with the Absolute Earth Squad under him ordered as well. The other Deputy General ordered the other squads, and the three of them quickly took control of the army. With their leaders with them, the panicked soldiers calmed. Soldiers, do not back down right now. We have to avenge our fallen brothers. Yeah! The soldiers roared. The Absolute Earth Squad stood in front and took the most damage. However, they still stood strong and created earth shields that blocked the arrows fired by the soldiers. The Piercing Fire Squad then created fireballs and then aimed them at the fort walls. Yes, it was just a one-star skill, fireball. However, with more than 10,000 soldiers using this same skill at the same time, the power was higher than any four-star skill. Not only that, but since it was just a one-star skill, the soldiers were able to shoot fireballs continuously. With an attack stronger than a four-star skill falling on the walls again and again and again, the walls cracked. Continue shooting. Don't think about conserving mana. Break the walls, the squad leader ordered. And soon, boom! The walls were burst open. Then Ember stepped forward and raised her sword in the air. Soldiers, march forward and kill all these bastards! Yeah! Boom! With that huge explosion, the fort walls were burst open. The death spikes or any other trap that requires mana to activate is usually connected to the walls. Once the walls are destroyed, all traps are disabled. This was the reason why the walls are valued so much. They are the first and the strongest layer of defense in any fort. And now that the Woods Dynasty's army has broken through the walls. Soldiers, march forward and kill all these bastards. Ember, the general, was ready to destroy her enemies with her dominant force. Yeah! The rest of the squads, who were eagerly waiting for the time to shine, roared in excitement and rushed forward. While the other squads rushed towards the fort, the Piercing Flame Squad and Absolute Earth Squad turned around and rushed back to safety. They have spent most of their mana. The Absolute Earth Squad could still hold up, but the beginner stage cultivators in the Piercing Flame Squad were barely holding on right now. Shooting so many fireballs at the same time was tiring. However, the results were satisfactory. With smiles on their faces, the two squads moved towards safety. Nux, who saw everything, smiled and turned towards Ember. We will move as well. Helping and saving so many soldiers' lives helped him calm his nerves. Now he was much more confident and was moving naturally. Ember nodded. All right. Nux and Thyra then nodded at each other, and then, covering their head with helmets, the two of them joined any random squad and rushed towards the fort. Ember, who was now left alone, smiled as she saw Nux's backing figure. You saved my soldiers' lives. I will make sure to repay you. Then she shook her head, stretched her body, and soon a horrifying aura oozed out of her body. Soldiers of the Solid Earth Kingdom, prepare to die, she shouted, and then dashed towards the fort as well. Nux was right. The number of soldiers inside the Death Spike Fort was 53,431, an absurdly huge number. placing 50,000 soldiers in a fort was too much, especially considering that everything that is happening right now is just a farce. Well, nobody cared about this right now. Those 50,000 soldiers prepared themselves to face that huge army that was rushing toward them. Then the 60,000 soldiers of the Woods dynasty clashed against 50,000 soldiers of the Solid Earth Kingdom. Yeah! Kill those bastards! The war started. The stronger cultivators continued to behead soldiers around them until they found their match and continued their clash. The same was the case for the generals. Ember massacred the soldiers around her, and finally she met the enemy general, a king stage cultivator. The two of them looked at each other, and the enemy general smiled. "Ember Windfall, I have heard about you." "That is good. However, I cannot say the same about you. You see, I usually ignore people weaker than me." Ember smirked. "Ha ha ha, you are just like the rumors say." The enemy general laughed. Ember, however, wasn't in the mood to waste this time. She knew that the enemy general was here to sacrifice his soldiers, therefore he didn't care how many of them died. However, she was different. She wanted to have as fewer casualties as possible. Therefore, she wanted to end it quickly. Without saying anything, she pointed her sword at the enemy general and rushed towards him. The enemy general smiled. "All right, let's see if you are as strong as the rumors say, the fiery killer Ember." Clank! Their swords clashed. Just like that, the three deputy generals fought against enemy deputy generals. The squad leaders fought against squad leaders. Unit leaders fought against unit leaders. Head soldiers fought against head soldiers, and soldiers with soldiers. However, some had already found faults in this pattern. The Solid Earth Kingdom loses in terms of the numbers of soldiers. Therefore, the stronger men, the squad and unit leaders, tried to kill as many enemy soldiers as they could before meeting their match. This was a very common tactic. And one man named Jason Demon, a squad leader and a Grand Master Stage cultivator, wasn't looking for his match. Rather, he avoided long fights and aimed for beginner and advanced stage cultivators. Therefore, he normally targets groups of soldiers, since only beginner and advanced stage cultivators fight in groups. Since he targeted the weak, his kill count in this war was already above 100. This was the way he fights a war, and usually kills more than 1,000 soldiers on his own. And just like any other war, he was doing the same thing this time as well. After killing 11 soldiers, he targeted another team and rushed towards them. However, just as he was about to behead a soldier, the man turned around and blocked his attack. Clank! Jason's eyes widened in surprise. A beginner or advanced stage cultivator shouldn't have this sort of reaction speed. Something was wrong. Jason had sensed it. Then he focused and observed the cultivation of the soldier he was attacking, and as soon as he did it, the hairs on his body stood up from fear. Expert? What the hell is an expert stage cultivator doing here? Jason questioned inwardly, and this was the last question in his mind. As soon his whole world turned upside down. He was beheaded. He didn't even have the time to react against the man in front of him. "It was easier than I expected," Nux muttered with a nonchalant look on his face. "Don't be too carefree. It is a war. Anyone can attack you from anywhere." Thyra, who was just behind him, muttered in a serious tone. Someone like her could easily create chaos around the battlefield with her skills. However, she decided to stay with Nux. She had to protect him if by chance someone took Nux by surprise. Suddenly, Nux and Thyra both turned in a certain direction, and then disappeared and appeared behind an enemy unit leader who was trying to hide and was trying to search for a chance to attack. Without giving him any chance, Nux beheaded the man and turned towards Thyra. Sure, I will be careful. Don't worry."
"Sure, I will be careful. Don't worry," Nux muttered with a small smile on his face. Thyra looked at his face and couldn't help but shake her head. "You don't look very careful to me." Don't worry. I will be fine. Also, don't I have you right beside me? What could possibly go wrong? Nux muttered with a bright smile on his face. Thyra looked at him and shook her head. He was not being serious at all. Thyra's thoughts were contradicting. She liked the fact that killing humans didn't affect Nux as much as it used to. Of course, it didn't mean he was completely unbothered by it. He could sense that he was trying to hide it from her and was trying to act unbothered. However, even after that, Thyra knew that his condition was a lot better than before. She was happy about it. However, at the same time, she didn't like that Nux was taking this too lightly. They were in the middle of a war. Any single mistake could get them killed. Getting careless here was a grave mistake. However, Thyra could understand Nux's thoughts as well. Right now, Nux is a lot stronger than the two generals who are fighting each other fiercely and were the main deciding factor of this war. If Nux wanted, he could easily slay both of them at the same time without breaking a sweat. He was just that strong. He alone had the power to change the course of this war. Not only that, but the statement, "You must always be careful when you fight in a war," wasn't something Nux had to follow. He had his absurd abilities. His sense would tell him every time someone aims at him. His conceal would allow him to disappear from everybody's sight. His physique would allow him to release devouring mist and kill every single being who is Grand Master Stage Cultivator or lesser. His harem gate would allow him to teleport and leave this area whenever he wants. With these absurd abilities, Nux was practically invincible. Getting carefree was only a natural reaction. Also, Nux was right. She was here with him. If everything comes down to it, she could always protect him. Heck, if it is required, she would even use her life to save Nux's. Nux's safety was practically guaranteed here. Suddenly, Nux's expression changed. Thyra understood what happened. She activated Sense and scanned the entire battlefield. Soon she noticed something strange, and then her eyes turned cold. The man she was looking at was a Grand Master Stage Cultivator and was hiding behind a few beginner stage soldiers. With how his feet were pointing at Nux, how his left hand was close to the place where he had kept a dagger, how he was looking at Nux every other few seconds, and how he was moving towards him slowly and steadily, his intentions were clear. He was trying to take Nux by surprise and then pierce his dagger into Nux's heart. But before he could even achieve his goal, a dagger pierced his heart. It was Nux's dagger. The enemy squad leader died without even knowing what had happened. Nux stood in front of his corpse. Thyra smiled and walked toward him as well. "You did well," she muttered. "Thyra, I was thinking," suddenly Nux muttered. "What?" Thyra questioned. "Isn't finding and killing enemies a lot better than letting the opponents come towards us weaker soldiers and then kill them?" Nux questioned. Thyra looked at Nux and turned silent. Then, after thinking for a while, she nodded to herself. "Just don't overdo it. You can't have too high of a kill count. Remember, you're just a normal expert stage cultivator, okay?" "I know that, of course. Don't worry. I'm not an idiot." Nux smiled brightly. Thyra, for some reason, didn't like that smile on his face. However, in the end, she didn't say anything and turned silent. From then on, Nux's domination and enemy master and grandmaster stage cultivators hunt started. "Ha ha ha! You are stronger than I thought, fiery killer. A prodigy who has high affinity for both fire and wind. Fighting you was indeed eye-opening. Ha ha ha! I had a lot of fun." The enemy general laughed loudly. His clothes were a mess right now. There were many cuts all over his body and a serious wound on his lower abdomen. However, the man was still laughing loudly. Ember, on the other hand, didn't look much different from before, except for the sweat on her forehead. From her breathing, it was clear that she wasn't much tired either. However, there was still a solemn expression on her face. Even though she was clearly winning, she could feel that something was not right. The enemy general, he was too carefree. This was something that didn't sit well with Ember. Suddenly, a sad look appeared on the enemy general's face when he looked at his abdomen. I wanted to fight you more, however, it feels like this is the farthest I can go. If I continue, I might not make it out of this battle. Ember frowned. You're giving up? I am. However, prepare yourself, Ember Windfall. We will fight again, and next time, I will defeat you, the general muttered, and then he stepped back. Ember didn't follow him either. Actually, the reality was that she couldn't follow him. From the start, a king-level cultivator wasn't supposed to die in this battle. You either win this battle or you run away. These were the only two options. Of course, she could also try to follow him, however, she couldn't leave her army here. Also, she can't go too deep into enemy territory. That was simply foolish. Therefore, she could only stay there and announce, "The enemy general has fled. This battle, we have won." Yeah! Hearing her words, the two armies reacted differently. The solid Earth Kingdom soldiers started running away in panic and fear. The Woods Dynasty soldiers started slaughtering the soldiers running away and howling in excitement. The Woods Dynasty soldiers then occupied the Death Spike Fort. Others started setting up tents for their superiors. The injured were treated, and the ones who were tired just lay down on the ground. The war had ended, and the winner was the Woods Dynasty. Or that's what everyone thought.
The fort is finally ours now, a deputy general muttered with a smile on his face. His hairs were a little messed up and he was drenched in sweat. However, other than that, he looked perfectly fine. He had minor injuries on his body before. However, the healing potions showed their magic and all those minor wounds had already disappeared. Indeed, actually, the battle was easier than I thought it would be. Aside from that initial death spike trap, the entire battle was pretty smooth, another deputy general muttered. Indeed, there are a lot fewer casualties than I thought, the last deputy general nodded. Ha! Those soldiers would drink a lot today. They might even lose self-control. Don't worry, they worked hard. They are allowed to relax a little. Indeed, they deserve it. Hey, don't talk like that. Don't we deserve a reward as well? Huh? Is that even a question? Of course we will reward ourselves. I have even prepared a vintage just for this moment. As I expected, Morrison, you are indeed an intelligent person. KKK. The three deputy generals laughed. It was very clear that they were in good mood. Then the deputy general named Morrison turned towards Ember. General, are you going to join us for a drink, right? Ember looked at the deputy general and then a small smile appeared on her face. Have I ever denied a good drink before? Wide smiles appeared on the three deputy generals' faces. Tonight is going to be a great night, they laughed. Of course, since I'm here, how can a night not be good? Suddenly, the four of them heard a voice, and soon 2 people wearing skin-tight black-colored clothes entered the tent. As her eyes fell on the 2 people who had just entered the tent, a small smile appeared on Ember's face. You finally arrived. What were you 2 doing? We were waiting for you. Nux smiled. Then he turned towards Tyra, and his smile widened. We were doing something very important. A small blush appeared on Tyra's face. Huh? What were you 2 doing that was so important that you 2 had to do just after winning a war? A deputy general couldn't help but question. Just think of it as a sort of celebration. It was our own way of celebrating good things. Nux smiled. And this time, the general and the deputy generals caught on. The 4 of them looked at Nux and Tyra with strange looks on their faces. Just how can someone be in the mood to do something like that after fighting a war? And as if knowing what all of them were thinking, Nux shook his head. Don't think too much about it. Virgins like you won't understand. Ember felt her face twitching when she heard those words. The deputy generals, however, couldn't control themselves and lashed out. Huh? Fuck you, I'm not a virgin. Indeed, mind you, let alone a virgin, I am very experienced. You are nothing but a child in front of me. Indeed, there is no way we would be virgins. I completely agree. How is that even possible? The three deputy generals nodded continuously, and Nux, who was looking at them, smiled. Inwardly, he thanked these three deputy generals and then looked at Ember, who was unusually silent. Nux's words weren't meant for all four of them in the first place. They were meant for Ember, the general. He had managed to get close to her in all these days, and from their conversations he could easily deduce that she was a virgin. Therefore, his question only targeted the general. As for the others, when has Nux ever cared about guys? He was just enjoying Ember's reaction. However, Ember didn't allow him that luxury. It was your first war, wasn't it? She questioned as she turned towards Tyra. It was, Tyra answered. So, how was it? Where are the heads that you promised to bring? Ember questioned with a slight smile on her face. Don't tell me you weren't able to do what you said. An expert stage cultivator like you can't be that weak, can you? Tyra's face twitched. This woman was shameless. Wasn't she the one who said she didn't want it? Why was she asking for it now? But soon a small smile appeared on Tyra's face. She had prepared for something like this before. Then Tyra threw a ring at Ember. 20+ squad leaders, 400 unit leaders, all their heads are inside it. Check it whenever you want. Tyra smiled triumphantly. And Nux, he just noticed how quickly and effortlessly Ember changed the topic. Nux then turned towards Ember, wanting to see that winning smile on her face. However, what he saw was an expression of pure shock. You two killed so many? Ember questioned in shock. Tyra smiled. Well, it was our first war, so we weren't able to do very well. I hope you can forgive us. Ember became silent. This time she had to answer. 20 squad leaders. This was simply absurd. There were only 50 to 60 squad leaders in the enemy team to begin with, and these two killed more than a third of that with just them alone. Not only that, they had also killed 300 unit leaders as well. How did they do this? Just how much were they running around in order to find their targets? And how did they even have the energy to do that after fighting for so long? That must be the reason why there were so less casualties among our soldiers, a deputy general muttered. Ember turned silent again. First, they saved thousands of soldiers, and now this. Just who are these two? Ember wanted to say something. However, General, this is bad. A soldier rushed into the tent with a panicked look on his face. What is it? A deputy general frowned. General, you need to return.
When Nux entered Wood's dynasty's army camp, there were around 120,000 soldiers in the camp. Of course, the general did not take all the soldiers with her for this attack. Half of the soldiers were left behind. However, since they were only going to protect the base, not many higher-ranking officers were left behind. There were no deputy generals, only 30 squad leaders, 500 unit leaders, and the rest were head soldiers and normal soldiers. All these soldiers had to do was to stay in the camp. It was an easy thing to do. Actually, it was more like a break for these soldiers. However, something happened. An hour after the main army left, 10 expert stage cultivators appeared in this area, and together they assassinated all 30 squad leaders and then killed around 100 unit leaders while escaping. This was disastrous. The whole army panicked. How did this happen? Ember, who was looking at her subordinates' dead bodies, questioned in a solemn tone. 1. No one replied. Where did those 20 expert stage cultivators come from? Ember questioned again. The 3 deputy generals started thinking.
A kingdom's army only has 6 to 10 expert stage cultivators. However, this does not mean that there are only 6 to 10 expert stage cultivators in that kingdom. There are other expert stage cultivators as well. The nobles, Deputy General Lawrence muttered. The answer was obvious. However, I don't understand. Why are the nobles moving? Wasn't this war a farce? And even if the Solid Earth Kingdom doesn't treat this as a farce, the nobles moving makes no sense at all. When the two counties are at war, the only time nobles make a move is when they see the chance to earn some profit. If they don't see this chance, they would not move at all. The king cannot force them either, else the king will be known as a tyrant, and planning a coup would be a lot easier. In a war, nobles were the least helpful bunch. It has always been that way. However, this time, the Solid Earth Kingdom nobles were moving. Ember and her 3 deputy generals could not understand the reason behind it. What about our spies? If the nobles were moving, then something must have happened inside the Solid Earth Kingdom. Why weren't we informed about it? Ember questioned. It might be possible that they only discussed it with the dukes, not the rest of the nobles. If a big announcement wasn't made, then the spies won't be able to report anything, another deputy general presumed. How are we so sure that these expert stage assassins are nobles? What if it was something else? A hidden team that belongs to the king alone, or something like that? Suddenly, Nux questioned. Ember turned towards him and shook her head. It isn't as easy as it sounds. Grooming an expert stage cultivator is a difficult time that needs a lot of time. Of course, there are always chances that what you said was true. However, the chances of these assassins being nobles are higher. In the end, all we are doing is presuming things. We do not have accurate information. However, one thing is clear. The Solid Earth Kingdom's movements are strange. First, they had an unusually high number of soldiers inside the Death Spike Fort. Second, their 20 expert stage cultivators assassinated the leaders of our army that weren't even part of the war. Something is going on inside the Solid Earth Kingdom. I would need to report it, Ember muttered with a solemn expression on her face. However, again, Nux couldn't understand. How are these actions strange? They wanted to defend Death Spike Fort and make it theirs. That is the reason why they fought so hard. Then they used their assassins to kill our leaders to weaken our army. All these actions were done in order to weaken our army. Isn't that completely normal? Nux questioned. However, Ember shook her head again. What you said would have been true if the Woods Dynasty and the Solid Earth Kingdom were at war with each other. Huh? Nux frowned. Ember understood his confusion and continued. As I said before, all of this was a farce. I thought it was pretty clear from when we saw that there were 50,000 soldiers defending that fort. This is not a farce. It is an actual war. This time, Nux didn't back down. I agree with your words. Solid Earth Kingdom's actions are too much. That is the reason why I said it was strange. You see, there is no enmity between the Woods Dynasty and the Solid Earth Kingdom. Therefore, they have no reason to start this war. Huh? What's the problem? In the end, the reason is only an excuse. Even I can form a believable reason and start the war. The Woods Dynasty attacked us when we were down. Now they have to pay for it. A simple but effective reason. Thyra was impressed. However, Ember wasn't. What you were talking about is forging a reason to influence the mass. However, a war between two kingdoms won't start with something foolish like this. Nux, when two kingdoms fight, the one that benefits isn't one of those two kingdoms, but the other kingdoms. Victory or defeat doesn't matter. When you participate in a war, you are weakened. At the same time, the other kingdoms just enjoy the show and strengthen themselves. This is extremely disadvantageous for a kingdom. And if we talk about the situation of our continent, where the 4 strongest kingdoms rule, 2 kingdoms fighting each other is the worst decision those 2 kingdoms could make. Therefore, unless there is absolute enmity between the 2 kingdoms, they would never go to war with each other, no matter what. Nux finally understood. However, the Solid Earth Kingdom's actions seem like they are pushing for war, which is completely unnecessary in this situation. Is this why you think that their actions are strange? Am I right? Nux questioned. Indeed. Ember nodded, and Nux's expression changed. Nobody other than Thyra noticed. There was a small smile on Nux's face. It was only for a second. It would even be misunderstood with a slight twitch. However, Thyra, who was the most familiar with Nux, could understand him very well. Nux was excited. Thyra frowned. She couldn't understand why he had that face. Why was he excited? However, even though she was confused, Thyra didn't say anything. And only after the meeting ended and Thyra and Nux returned inside their tent did she question, "Why were you so excited?" Nux looked at Thyra and smiled. "Tisk, tisk, just how closely were you looking at my face for you to notice that?" he whispered seductively. "Very closely." Thyra brought her face close to Nux's and answered shamelessly, "Tisk, tisk, what a pervert." "What can I do? It's the after effect of living with a certain someone. That certain someone is so perverted that even I, a completely innocent woman, was affected by him." Thyra replied, and a smile appeared on Nux's face. Then he sealed Thyra's lips, and after sharing a small kiss, he replied, "Don't blame that certain someone for your perverseness. He's not to blame. I believe that he's an innocent person." "Oh, really?" Thyra wanted to reply, however she soon realized something. "Oi, koi, why did you change the topic? Answer my question. Why are you so excited? Is there something I missed?" Nux shook his head and answered, "This war would continue." "Huh? That's the reason why you're excited?" Thyra frowned. "Indeed." Nux nodded with a smile on his face, and at the same time he looked at the screen in front of him. Quest system. Current quests. Kill a beginner stage cultivator. Reward 1 system point. Accept Y or N. Kill an advanced stage cultivator. Reward 2 system point. Accept Y or N. Kill a master stage cultivator. Reward 5 system point. Accept Y or N. Kill a grandmaster stage cultivator. Reward 10 system point. Accept Y or N. Kill an expert stage cultivator. Reward 20 system point. Accept Y or N. Kill a king stage cultivator. Reward 50 system point. Accept Y or N. Yes, just as he dashed towards the enemy army, his quest system updated. And if that wasn't enough, then party system. Yes, his party system was activated as well. He had formed a party with 60,000 soldiers, fighting against 50,000 system point packet with 60,000 points / allies. What was the result? He was rich. He was fucking rich. When the war started, he had some little reservations about killing humans. However, these last few days have been an eye-opener for him. He had learned, in this world, human lives did not matter. Anyone can kill anyone and no one would blame him. That is how this world works. Of course, from all the novels he had read in his past life, Nux knew about it beforehand. However, knowing and accepting it in your mind are 2 different things. Now Nux had accepted it, and he had realized his mistake. He was taking things too leniently. He needs to think more before taking any action. He needed to be more patient. It wasn't like he had to figure everything out on his own. He, who was from another world, had a big advantage. His women. His women were all amazing people. He should rely on them and discuss things thoroughly before planning everything. Ahem. Back to the topic. Nux's inner heart hasn't changed. Killing humans still affected him, however his mind had strengthened. His mind had realized that it was all for the greater good, and now that he gets system points for killing humans, his resolve got even stronger. His calculations were simple. The more system points he has, the higher number of abilities can he buy, and the higher number of abilities he has, the stronger he becomes. Him becoming strong is something that increases the chances of him and his women surviving in this cruel world. Therefore, Nux killed. Not only that, he even wished that the war would continue so he could earn more and more points. And things were going the way he wanted. He was obviously happy and was looking forward to the next war. "Oh, was your first experience on the battlefield too exciting for you? I didn't know you loved war so much," Thyra muttered, and then a dramatic expression appeared on her face. "Wait, don't tell me. Is it because I'm here with you? Aha, now I understand. Here you don't have to deal with those other annoying women. Here you can peacefully spend time with your favorite woman without any problems. I can completely understand that. Those women can get annoying indeed. I won't tell them," Thyra replied, and a smile appeared on Nux's face. Then he sealed Thyra's lips, and after sharing a small kiss, he replied, "Don't blame that certain someone for your perverseness. He's not to blame. I believe that he's an innocent person." "Oh, really?" Thyra wanted to reply, however, she soon realized something. Oi, why did you change the topic? Answer my question. Why are you so excited? Is there something I missed?" Nux shook his head and answered, "This war would continue." "Huh? That's the reason why you're excited?" Thyra frowned. "Indeed," Nux nodded with a smile on his face, and at the same time he looked at the screen in front of him. Quest system. Current quests. Kill a beginner stage cultivator. Reward 1 system point. Accept Y or N. Kill an advanced stage cultivator. Reward 2 system point. Accept Y or N. Kill a master stage cultivator. Reward 5 system point. Accept Y or N. Kill a grandmaster stage cultivator. Reward 10 system point. Accept Y or N. Kill an expert stage cultivator. Reward 20 system point. Accept Y or N. Kill a king stage cultivator. Reward 50 system point. Accept Y or N. Yes, just as he dashed towards the enemy army, his quest system updated. And if that wasn't enough, then party system. Yes, his party system was activated as well. He had formed a party with 60,000 soldiers, fighting against 50,000 system point packet with 60,000 points / allies. What was the result? He was rich. He was fucking rich. When the war started, he had some little reservations about killing humans. However, these last few days have been an eye-opener for him. He had learned, in this world, human lives did not matter. Anyone can kill anyone and no one would blame him. That is how this world works. Of course, from all the novels he had read in his past life, Nux knew about it beforehand. However, knowing and accepting it in your mind are two different things. Now Nux had accepted it, and he had realized his mistake. He was taking things too leniently. He needs to think more before taking any action. He needed to be more patient. It wasn't like he had to figure everything out on his own. He, who was from another world, had a big advantage. His women. His women were all amazing people. He should rely on them and discuss things thoroughly before planning everything. Ahem. Back to the topic. Nux's inner fart hasn't changed. Killing humans still affected him, however his mind had strengthened. His mind had realized that it was all for the greater good, and now that he gets system points for killing humans, his resolve got even stronger. His calculations were simple. The more system points he has, the higher number of abilities can he buy, and the higher number of abilities he has, the stronger he becomes. Him becoming strong is something that increases the chances of him and his women surviving in this cruel world. Therefore, Nux killed. Not only that, he even wished that the war would continue so he could earn more and more points. And things were going the way he wanted. He was obviously happy and was looking forward to the next war. Oh, was your first experience on the battlefield too exciting for you? I didn't know you loved war so much, Thyra muttered, and then a dramatic expression appeared on her face. Wait, don't tell me. Is it because I'm here with you? Aha, now I understand. Here you don't have to deal with those other annoying women. Here you can peacefully spend time with your favorite woman without any problems. I can completely understand that. Those women can get annoying indeed. I won't tell them, Thyra replied, and a smile appeared on Nux's face. Then he sealed Thyra's lips, and after sharing a small kiss, he replied, "Don't blame that certain someone for your perverseness. He's not to blame. I believe that he's an innocent person." "Oh, really?" Thyra wanted to reply. However, she soon realized something. Oi, why did you change the topic? Answer my question. Why are you so excited? Is there something I missed? Nux shook his head and answered, "This war would continue." Huh? That's the reason why you're It was 9 in the morning and Ember was roaming around the army camp, checking if she could find a variable. She has already sent a few spies inside the solid Earth Kingdom. Now all she had to do was wait and she would get the gist of the situation there. Not only that, but she has also reported the incident of squad leaders being assassinated to the dynast, or in other words, the king. However, she has yet to receive any response from that. Lack of information. This was a severe issue. Her limbs were tied because of this. If things stay the same, she wouldn't be able to plan her next move. All she could do was act like a turtle, roam around her camp, and keep the place safe from any possible future attacks. Yes, even though they have won this war, the atmosphere of the Woods Dynasty's army camp was stale and silent. Soldiers were on high alert. Even drinking wasn't allowed. "Oh, so you finally returned. Took you long enough." While Ember was walking around the camp, she heard a voice. "Well, they kept me there for far too long." Ember frowned. Then she turned around and noticed that this tent belonged to Thyra. Tisk, tisk, they must be very desperate. Ember heard Thyra's voice. Not only that, but she had even recognized the second person's voice as well. It was Nux. And from how they were talking, it looked like Nux has returned from somewhere. But the problem is that she didn't see Nux leaving the army camp. Did he sneak out? Where did he go? Wait. Suddenly, Ember thought of a possibility. From the start, Nux and Thyra were too good. First, they saved 2 of her strongest squads from getting annihilated by revealing the death spike trap. Then he revealed the number of soldiers inside the death spike fort correctly, when even her, the general of the army, had no clue about it. Then that unnaturally high number of kills. Everything about Nux and Thyra was too good to be true. So good that Ember was a little suspicious. Were these 2 hiding something? Are these 2 their allies or enemies? What are they talking about? Ember wondered inwardly as she hid and continued to listen to their conversation. Huh, so they must have sucked you dry, huh? Those desperate bastards, Thyra muttered, and Ember's frown deepened. Sucked him dry? Is this some sort of code word? Are they talking about information? The enemies sucked all the information out of Nux's mouth? Is that what Thyra is talking about right now? Ember wondered inwardly. Of course not. Nux, however, shook his head and then continued. Trust me, I still have a lot of energy left. Energy? Does this mean that he still hasn't fully revealed everything yet? Ember had her own opinions, and the more she heard their conversation, the surer she felt. She might be right. Nux and Thyra might be spies sent by the solid Earth Kingdom. Wait! Suddenly Thyra muttered. Then she looked at Nux's hairs and his face, and her eyes turned cold. "So you took the bath already?" she questioned. "Yeah, I did," Nux nodded. "Who was it? Wait, don't tell me. I can already guess it. It must have been that princess. I'm sure of it." Princess? He directly shares our secret with the princess of the solid Earth Kingdom? Also, what the hell does taking bath means? Is this another code word? Does this mean exchanging information? Why are the two of them doing it? Aren't they working together? Why would they exchange information with each other? And what is tunsery? This is so confusing. Ember was fiery and bold. Thinking too much wasn't her style. Therefore, since she couldn't understand anything after thinking about this for so long, she decided to do it in her own way. She decided to capture Nux and Thyra and force them to spill everything. Of course, there is a chance that the two of them were innocent. However, at a time like this, when she knows practically nothing about the enemies, doubting every single thing is a way to go. In the end, if she was wrong, she would bow her head and apologize. Ember made her mind. Then her red eyes shined, and she entered Thyra's tent with her sword in her hand. "Don't move!" she roared. Nux and Thyra's eyes widened in surprise when they saw her entering like that. "What is the meaning of this?" Thyra questioned in anger. She couldn't believe that this woman barged into her room like that, and she did it just as she was about to have a good time. How shameless! However, instead of a reply, all she got to see was Ember's face, who was looking at Nux with absolute shock on her face. You are a child?" You are a child?" Ember shouted in shock. This face, she was sure that it was no older than 25. And this man is an expert stage cultivator? What the hell is happening? "No, I am not a child, I am an adult. I apologize if you misunderstood," Nux denied. "Who do you think you are fooling? Cultivation might extend your lifespan, however, you still get older. A 60-year-old cultivator may look like he is in his late 20s, however you don't even look like you are 20. Do you think I am a fool?" "No, that is not—" No, you can't fool me. All right, let's do it. Let me see your bone age. This way I will be able to confirm it." Nux turned silent. Bone age, in this world where cultivators roam around freely and a 100-year-old man might look like a handsome man in his early 30s, the concept of bone age was very popular. No matter how much one cultivates, bone age was something unchangeable. The bone age is a sure-shot way of knowing the age of a person. Therefore, when she noticed that Nux was still trying to hide it, Ember suggested checking Nux's bone age. However, as I was saying, I am an adult, a soon-to-be 19-year-old adult. Nux wasn't planning to hide it from the start. This time, Ember was the one who turned silent. She couldn't believe the bullshit she was hearing. A 19-year-old expert stage cultivator? What sort of absurd talent is that? Even a person who has exceptional level talent doesn't have this sort of absurd growth. And mind you, exceptional level talent can grow into emperor stage cultivator. If this boy has a talent higher than that, then just what realm could he reach? Just who was this monster? Ember wondered inwardly. You see that? This is the reason why we don't reveal our faces. Ember finally came out of her reverie when she heard Thyra's voice. Then she turned towards her and Thyra continued. A 19-year-old expert stage cultivator. Absurd, right? Anyone would react like how you are reacting. However, that's not it. The more people learn about him, the more dangerous it will get. You are experienced. You would know how others would react, right? Thyra questioned, and Ember turned silent. How could she not understand? She has lived in this world for 100 years after all. A small smile appeared on Nux's face as he stepped forward and walked towards Ember. Ember Windfall, I request you to hide this fact from others. Let this be our personnel little secret, how about it? Take it as you returning the favor of the time when we saved your soldiers from that death spike trap, Thyra muttered. Nah, she doesn't need to return it as a favor, right, Miss Ember? Nux interrupted. Then he brought his face dangerously close to Ember and smiled. You can keep this a secret just because of how close we two are, right? Ember looked at Nux's face and frowned. This man, he was a prodigy, she understands, but why is he so handsome? Just why is God so generous to him? However, instead of getting flustered like a girl in her teens, the general smiled. This was an opportunity to tease Thyra. Ember then moved her face, placed her hand on the back of Nux's neck, and their foreheads touched each other. The two of them could feel each other's breaths touching each other. Then a small, seductive smile appeared on Ember's face, and she looked at Thyra. Indeed, why are you making it sound like a deal, Thyra? I and Nux are close. We don't need deals. Our hearts are connected to each other. We understand each other. Therefore, I would keep this a secret without treating it as a favor. Ch! Thyra snorted and turned her face away. Seeing her reaction, Ember smiled in satisfaction. Then she turned towards Nux and saw his golden eyes looking at her and shining brightly. For some reason, Ember's heart skipped a beat, and she quickly stepped back. Seeing that scene, Thyra smiled inwardly. You are playing with fire, General Ember Windfall, a fire that will engulf you no matter how hard you resist. Of course, you won't realize it until you are completely engulfed in those flames. Oh right, General Ember, why did you rush into our tent with the sword in your hands? Suddenly Nux questioned. Oh, this? Ember finally realized, and then she shook her head. This is nothing. Her doubts were cleared. Nux was a monster. If the solid Earth Kingdom knew his existence, then he would either die or become their most treasured treasure. There was no way they would send him as a spy. However, now that she thinks about it, more and more questions appeared in her mind. But before she could ask, Nux questioned, Oh, come on, you wouldn't just barge into our tent with your sword in your hand without any reason, right? You can tell me. Didn't you just say it now? We two are very close to each other. Share it with me. I heard your conversation about you returning from somewhere, them sucking you dry, bathing together, and thought you were a spy. Ember thought about it and then decided to answer. Nux and Thyra were surprised. Everything was okay, but how the hell is their conversation and them being spies related? Wait, suddenly Thyra frowned. Then she turned towards Ember and narrowed her eyes. So, am I correct to assume that you were hiding? A teasing smile appeared on Ember's face. Yes, I heard about you and him bathing together. Foo. I want to join in as well. Thyra, however, was not in the mood to laugh or act ashamed. She turned towards Nux and used the telepathic link. Your sense didn't work. Nux's eyes widened in surprise. Your sense didn't work. Nux's eyes widened in surprise when he realized that. Instinctively, he used his sense again, and just like any other time, it was working perfectly fine. He could see Thyra, Ember, inside the tent, outside the tent. He could see everything clearly. Nux frowned. It's working. Then why didn't it work before? Nux thought inwardly. He then looked at Ember's status again. Name, Ember Windstar. Age, 152. Mana cultivation, King. Body cultivation, Mortal. Race, Human. Occupation, General of the Woods Dynasty. Talent, High. LVL, 61. HP, 740/740. MP, 1450/1450. ST, 72. AG, 78. VIT, 74. STM, 73. INT, 145. DEF, 75. Sense, 5-star ability. Description: when activated, the user will be able to sense everything around him. The range will depend on the user's MP. 1 MP equals 1 meter. Note: the ability will be activated automatically if someone is deliberately hiding his or her presence and is in the detection range of the ability. Note: the ability will fail to detect the presence of a cultivator whose MP is 2 times more than the host's. Cultivator whose MP is 2 times higher than mine. Let alone being 2 times higher than mine, Ember's MP is less than mine. Then why is Sense not working? Nux was confused. What happened? Why do you two look so strange? Do you really want me to apologize right now? If that's the case, I can do it. Ember, who was just about to bow her head in order to apologize, was stopped by Nux. No, General Ember, we aren't worried about that. Then what's the problem? Nux sadly turned silent. Then he turned towards Thyra and used their connection. We need to test it out. I agree, Thyra agreed. Nux's abilities not working would be a big blow to him. They had to test this out and make sure what happened. Nux then turned towards Ember and muttered, General Ember, I need your help. What do you want? You can tell me anything. Seeing the solemn look on Nux's face, Ember's face turned solemn as well, and she muttered, Can you go out with Thyra and do what she said? I promise it isn't something complicated. Huh? Ember was taken aback by this strange request. However, in the end, she didn't think too much and nodded. All right. Then Nux turned towards Thyra and nodded. Thyra nodded back. Then she walked towards Ember, and the two of them left the tent. Can you still see us? After leaving the tent, Thyra questioned. Yes, I can. Nux nodded. Now I will deactivate my sense. Try hiding, Nux muttered. All right. Thyra then walked towards the tent and hid herself, and as soon as she did, Nux's sense activated automatically. It is working, Nux muttered. Thyra frowned. Tell her to do the same, Nux muttered. Thyra nodded and then walked towards Ember, who was looking at her with a strange look on her face. General, can you please go and hide there as I did? Hide? Ember frowned. Yes, hide, just like how you hid when you were peeing at our conversation, Thyra muttered. Is this some sort of strange way of punishing me? Ember questioned. No, it is not like that. Trust me, it is important for us. You promised, now you can't go back on your words. Ember looked at Thyra and then sighed. Whatever. Then Ember walked towards the tent and hid herself. She hid herself. Was your sense activated? Thyra questioned. No, Nux replied. Try using sense on your own and see if you can see her, Thyra suggested. Nux did as she told. Sense was activated, however Ember was nowhere to be seen. The sense was unable to capture her. Nux told this to Thyra, and her frown deepened. Tell her to move around, Nux muttered. General Ember, this should be enough. Please come here, Ember muttered, and then walked towards Thyra. Nux activated his sense again, and this time he could see Ember with his sense. How does this work? Nux muttered. I've asked others. They are thinking about it. I think they would come up with their theories soon. You did a good job. You can bring her in. Thyra nodded, and she and Ember entered the tent. I don't understand what you two are trying to do. We are trying to confirm something, General Ember. Confirm what? Well, it is related to one of my deepest secrets. I can't share it with you now, can I? Nux smiled teasingly. Oh? Didn't you say that we two are very close? Why are you hiding your secrets from me? Ember questioned. Nux walked towards Ember and moved his face close to hers. Are you saying that you're not hiding anything from me, Ember? Ember stepped back. Well, I guess we are not that close then, she muttered coldly. Indeed, I would prefer if we were closer than this, Nux nodded. A small smile appeared on Ember's face as she looked at Thyra before looking at Nux again. Well, we can always start slowly by spending time with just the two of us, right? Ember chuckled. Thyra's face twitched, and seeing that, Ember smiled in satisfaction. Of course, I will look forward to that. Then why waste time? I'll be free in like 3 hours. How about you come to my tent after that? Alone, of course, Ember offered. I will gladly take that offer, Nux smiled. Ember's smile widened, and when she noticed Thyra glaring at her, she chuckled. Then she turned around and waved her hands. All right then, Nux. We'll meet 3 hours later. Don't be late. I won't, Nux smiled. Ember left the tent. As soon as she left, Nux's face turned serious again. Have you thought of anything? He questioned, and soon he got his answer. I do have a theory in my mind.
I do have a theory in my mind, Amaya muttered. What is it? Nux questioned curiously. From what I know, sense works on intent to hide. That means if someone wants to hide from you, the sense will be activated and you will know where that someone is. Ember, however, comes out as an exception. She, for some reason, doesn't get detected by your sense. Of course, I have thought of a possibility where, just like Thyra, who talked about wanting to kill you without any intent and got away with it, there might be a chance where Ember did the same thing. That means she hid without the intent to hide. However, there are 2 problems with that. First, hiding without intent of hiding seems impossible. Thyra just spoke those words. She didn't take any action. Ember, however, was doing that action. The possibility of her doing something like that without the intent is nearly 0, especially when she doesn't know about your sense ability. The second is when you used your sense yourself and still weren't able to find Ember. If sense is activated by you, intent to hide or not doesn't matter. You will see everything around you without any problems. Then why did Ember get away with it? Due to this, I believe that rather than hiding the intent, Ember got away from sense with something else. Not only that, but I also believe that she didn't do this something else on her own. I suspect that the problem is with the ability, not Ember. Ember didn't use any special ways to avoid your sense. Rather, there is something different about Ember that makes her undetectable from sense. And what is the difference between Ember and all the other people you have met so far? After a long explanation, Amaya questioned. Nux narrowed his eyes, and after thinking for a while, he answered, Her cultivation. Correct, Amaya smiled. Ember is the 2nd king stage cultivator you have met. Also, the headmaster of the academy, the other king stage cultivator, never tried to hide from you. Therefore, you can safely say that Ember is the 1st king stage cultivator you have tried to use your sense on. Of course, from our observations, we have seen that sense has no problem in seeing the king stage cultivator using a normal way, but the problem arises when the king stage cultivators try to hide. So, according to me, sense fails to detect a king stage cultivator if he intends to hide from you. And I believe that it will be the same for cultivators above king stage. That means sense won't be able to detect the emperors either, Amaya explained. I still do not understand one thing. Why is this happening? According to what I know, as long as my target's mana isn't twice mine, sense will work. However, since the conditions aren't met in this case, why is sense not working properly? This time, however, Amaya shook her head. I do not have an answer to that. Nux turned silent. Actually, it doesn't really matter. Suddenly, Felberta muttered. Nux frowned, and Felberta continued. Why it is happening doesn't matter. Of course, it would be better if we knew what is happening. However, even if we don't know what has happened, we won't be able to change anything. It's not like we can change your ability, right? Rather than thinking about this, I believe it would be better to fully understand the limitations of depth. Think of every single possibility, every single way to beat sense. That would be the best.
I agree with Sister Fell. Allura nodded in agreement. I agree as well. Amaya agreed as well. You were about to meet Ember. Ask for her help. Thyra suggested. What? He's going to meet Sister Ember? Skyla's ears perked up as soon as she heard Thyra's words, and she questioned. Yes, she has already started calling Ember Sister Ember. However, even though she had accepted it already, for some reason she didn't like that Nux was going to meet her. Huh? Nux? You're going to meet Ember? Isn't that too soon? Amaya, of course, didn't like this as well. Too soon? Amaya, you bitch! What are you talking about? Oi, oi, oi! You can just not see him if you want. Don't group us with you. Indeed, indeed. Everyone attacked Amaya. Except, actually, it doesn't sound that bad. Guys, Amaya doesn't mean any harm. She just wants Nux to train more, so don't blame her. Thyra muttered with a small smile on her face. Shut up, you bitch! I did not mean that. Nux, you should go meet Ember as soon as possible, then you should fuck her as soon as possible, then you should return. Amaya muttered with a smile on her face. Everyone turned silent. Nux chuckled. He really enjoyed talking to his women. All right, Amaya, I will do as you say. Nux smiled, and his women turned silent again. Nux chuckled again and continued talking. Just like that, 3 hours passed. Seeing the time, Nux stood up. It was time to meet Ember. You are late. As Nux entered Ember's tent, she muttered while sitting on her chair. Nux smiled, then he walked forward and sat on the chair placed in front of her. I apologize. Oh well, whatever. It wasn't an official meeting. It's just two friends meeting each other, so we don't have to be so strict about it. Indeed, indeed. Nux nodded his head continuously. All right then, my friend, let me ask a few questions. Sticking to her usual way of doing things, Amaya muttered without wasting any time. Ask what you want. Nux smiled. Then a serious look appeared on Ember's face, and she questioned, What is your relationship with the Skyfall Kingdom?
What is your relationship with the Skyfall Kingdom? Ember questioned with a small, friendly smile on her face. Oh ho, starting right from a complex topic, I see. Nux muttered with a small smile on his face. You don't have to answer me if you don't want to. I won't complain, Ember muttered. Nux nodded, and then he answered. Other than the fact that I grew up there, I have no relationship with the Skyfall Kingdom. Hearing this answer, Ember frowned. As I said, you can choose not to answer if you want. I won't say anything. However, I would prefer it if you don't lie. Lying won't help us in any way. Rather, it would only create a barrier between us. Nux, however, shook his head. I am not lying. I really have no relationship with the Skyfall Kingdom. However, I do have some relationships with certain members of the royal family, Nux answered with a playful smile on his face. Arvina Skyfall, I presume, Ember guessed. Indeed, Nux nodded his head. I guessed it. That girl doesn't give out her badge very often. So, how are you related to her? Ember questioned. She is my teacher. Teacher? As in your personnel teacher? Yes, recently I joined Skyfall Royal Academy and caught her eyes. Then she recruited me as her student, and of course I accepted readily. Sounds like something she would do, Ember nodded with a smile on her face. You two seem to know each other, Nux commented. Well, we used to be close when she was small. However, as more and more time passed and she realized her responsibilities as the consort of the Skyfall Kingdom and me as the general of the Woods Dynasty, we weren't able to spend much time with each other, Ember answered, and Nux nodded. Then Ember continued. So you're telling me that the royal consort knows about your absurd talent?
She does, of course. She is my teacher. Then why are you here? Shouldn't you stay inside the academy and train under her? Ember questioned. She was the one who sent me here. She says that I am too immature and wants me to grow up. Huh? You're just 19 years old. What does she expect? Isn't the solution to this problem very simple? We just have to wait for 30-40 years. You will automatically be mature by that time. Ember frowned. Wasn't her friend being a little too immature? Why would she send a 19-year-old boy to war? Why if he dies? Why would she risk losing a monstrous talent like Nux for something so stupid? Ember couldn't understand what was going on inside Arvina's mind. Nux adjusted his body as he sat more comfortably on the chair and muttered. Teacher Arvina said that if we wait for 30-40 years, it would already be too late. Hearing those words, Ember frowned. And seeing that reaction, Nux smiled. Then he bent his body towards Ember, looked around a few times, and then he whispered, Since I would already become an Emperor stage cultivator by that time, and of course, I can't become mature if I am the strongest, now can I? T! Ember's eyes widened in surprise. You know about Emperor stage? Well, Teacher Arvina told me about them. Each kingdom has one protecting them. They are the reason why the kingdoms rule over all others, right? Nux smiled. Ember was dumbfounded. What Nux just said was a kingdom-level secret that shouldn't be revealed in any scenario. She knew that Arvina had some connections with Skyfall Kingdom's Emperor stage cultivator, however, she just couldn't understand one thing. Why would she tell something like that to Nux? Was she out of her mind? Actually, that was okay, but Emperor stage in 40 years? What the hell is that? What kind of absurd confidence is that? Wait, suddenly Ember realized something. A 19-year-old expert stage cultivator. The youngest expert stage cultivator she has ever met was 54 years old. Ember then looked at Nux and started thinking. If it is him, then yeah, he might be able to do it. Suddenly, another thought appeared in Ember's mind. If my memory serves me right, the Emperor stage cultivator of the Skyfall Kingdom still has many years left. If you become Emperor stage as well, then... Ember didn't say any more. However, the meaning of her words was clear. A grave expression appeared on her face. 2 emperors. This would be too advantageous for the Skyfall Kingdom and disadvantageous for the other 3 kingdoms, which includes her dynasty as well. This was clearly bad for her and her dynasty's future. Not only that, but the source of all the future troubles is sitting right in front of her. Ember started thinking, should she get rid of him right now? Then Ember's eyes fell on Nux, who was looking at her with a small smile on his face. She quickly shook her head. What are you thinking, Ember? He trusts you. How can you betray his trust like that? Soon, however, another thought appeared in her mind. It's his fault for trusting you. This is related to the 2 strongest powers. If you don't make a move right now, he will make his move in the future. This might even destroy the Woods dynasty. You have to get rid of him now that you have this chance. What about Arvina then? She sent her student here because she trusted you. Are you going to betray her as well? White Ember questioned. She sent her student here so that he can train. She is treating us like some sort of practice dummy. Red Ember muttered. You! How can you think like that? White Ember questioned in rage. This is the truth. Red Ember spat. In the midst of their fight, Ember sat there with a confused expression on her face. However, her confusion was dealt with by Nux's next words. Do not worry. As I said before, I do not belong to the Skyfall Kingdom. Do not worry. As I said before, I do not belong to the Skyfall Kingdom. Nux muttered with a small smile on his face. Huh? Ember, however, frowned when she heard those words. How is that possible? You are going to become an Emperor stage cultivator. There is no way the Skyfall Kingdom will let you go. I assume that you are being manipulated by your teacher. The higher-ups in the Skyfall Kingdom must already know about you by now. Since she was already in a very confused state, she wasn't able to control herself and spoke directly. Nux, however, shook his head and muttered, "Believe me, I do not belong to the Skyfall Kingdom." Ember turned silent. She wanted to say that Nux was being ridiculous and was being lied to. However, seeing those eyes, she was unable to say those words out loud. There was not a glimpse of uncertainty in those eyes. She felt like Nux knew what he was talking about. However, as a general, she understood the working of her dynasty. She knew what lengths could the higher-ups of a power could go in order to get what they want. This is not true for the Skyfall Kingdom or the Woods dynasty alone. It is true for every single power in this world. From a baron's house to the royal family, the core of power is always the same. Nux, however, seems to be completely clueless about this. Therefore, for some reason, Ember decided to tell the truth about this world. Think with me here. Since you live in the Skyfall Kingdom, there have to be many people who know about your talent. There is no way someone like you can stay hidden. Trust me, if more than 10 people know about your existence, the royal family must be knowing about it by now. And if the royal family know about you and you do not wish to become the protector of the kingdom, then sooner or later you will be assassinated. Seeing the solemn look on Ember's face, a small smile appeared on Nux's face. Then he shook his head. Do not worry, what you think won't happen. Hearing those confident words, Ember wanted to facepalm. Why is this boy not understanding what she is talking about? She wondered in her head. And as if seeing through her thoughts, Nux smiled. I am not saying what I am saying without any reason. My teacher, Arvina Skyfall, is the one helping me hide my secret from others. She wants me to hide and cultivate till I become an Emperor stage cultivator. Nux, don't forget this teacher Arvina you're talking about is also the royal consort of the Skyfall Kingdom. Do not trust a royal, Nux. They are made from lies. They can come up with a lie right in front of you and make it look like what they said couldn't be truer. By now, Arvina, who is helping you hide this secret, must have already reported this to the king of the Skyfall Kingdom, Nux muttered. Huh? Isn't teacher Arvina your friend? Why are you talking like that? Nux questioned out of curiosity. Well, she is indeed my friend. However, it has been years since she became part of the royal family. She is different from before. Of course, the same goes for me as well. I am different from before since I became the general of the Woods dynasty, Ember answered. So this means what you said was just you assuming everything, just because of the fact that teacher is part of the royal family? Nux questioned. Ember frowned. She is part of the royal family. You are taking this fact too lightly here. I will ask again, everything you said just now was just you assuming everything just because teacher is part of the royal family, Nux repeated. Yes, however, it is not baseless assumptions. I have experienced many people who have gone through many different changes once they became part of the royal family. That place is a deep, dark marsh, a place of no return, Ember nodded. Well, what you think isn't wrong, Nux nodded his head. Ember thought that this boy finally understood what she was talking about. However, these thoughts vanished as Nux continued. You are right, however, I will still choose to believe my judgment. The time I have spent with teacher Arvina, the sincerity I have seen in her eyes, and her pride as a warrior that would never allow her to go back on her words, I would rather believe these things than make assumptions. Ember didn't have any way to respond. I would rather trust my teacher than trust useless assumptions. Shouldn't she do the same thing? Shouldn't she trust her friend rather than trusting these assumptions? She should. However, after living for so many years, she has learned that rather than trusting a person, trusting assumptions is often proven correct. Of course, if my judgment is incorrect, then I am ready to deal with the consequences, Nux muttered with a smile. And hearing those words, the general came out of her reverie and frowned. She just thought that Nux might not be as immature as she thought he is. However, he just decided to go on and prove her wrong again. Consequences? She raised her eyebrows. You will deal with the consequences? Do you even know what the consequences are? Well, I would have to fight against a kingdom, Nux muttered. Ember turned silent. Again, she was dumbfounded how nonchalant Nux sounded. Or, in other words, you will lose your life, she muttered. Well, not necessarily, Nux smiled, and Ember frowned. And seeing her expression, Nux's smile widened. General Ember, I am not a fool. I do not move without a plan. I decided to trust my teacher, however, this does not mean I am willing to put my life in her hands. Ember didn't say anything and continued to listen. If the king already knows about it, then sooner or later he will attack me. Of course, the Emperor stage cultivator won't show herself just because of a mere expert stage cultivator. At best, there would be 2 or 3 king stage cultivators attacking me. And General Ember, since you are my close friend, let me tell you a secret. Although I am an expert stage cultivator, I am serious. I can easily get away from a few king stage cultivators pursuing me. I am stronger than I look. Although I am an expert stage cultivator, I am serious. I can easily get away from a few king stage cultivators pursuing me. I am stronger than I look. Nux smiled playfully, and Ember narrowed her eyes. If it was anyone else other than Nux, she would have doubted these words. However, Nux was a monstrous prodigy. He wouldn't have survived this far if he didn't have a few trump cards hidden. Also, Nux never said he could defeat king stage cultivators. He said he could run away from them. Although this wasn't something very common, there have been a few cases where an expert stage cultivator survived an assault from a king stage cultivator. Therefore, Nux achieving that isn't something impossible. However, how are you so sure about it? Ember questioned. She wanted to know more about it. That is a secret, Nux smiled. Ember narrowed her eyes in frustration. However, she soon controlled herself and questioned, Have you tested it before? No, I have not. Nux shook his head. How about you test it with me here? I'm sure it will help you. Ember offered with a smile. She had 2 reasons to do what she did. First, she wanted to help Nux. Second, she wanted to see if Nux could actually do it. Getting away from a king stage cultivator, she wanted to see how Nux would do or try to do it. She wanted to see why he was so confident. However, as if trying to annoy her purposefully, Nux shook his head. As I said, it is a secret and is my trump card. I can't show it to you carelessly. But wouldn't it be better if you knew if it would work or not with full certainty? Counter-questioned Ember. It would, however, I will still not risk it, Nux smiled. Ember's face twitched in frustration. However, soon a small smile appeared on her face. So you're telling me that you won't use it unless it is absolutely necessary? Yes. You're saying that you won't reveal your secret unless a king stage cultivator is coming for your life. Is that correct? Yes, it is. Nux nodded, and Ember's smile widened. Different thoughts were running wild in her mind right now. However, Nux shook his head. Don't do what you are thinking of doing, he muttered with a soft smile on his face. Huh? Why not? Ember questioned. She didn't even try to deny it. She knew Nux had caught on as well. Well, as I said, I will only use it if my life is on the line, and if you push me that far, I will take my revenge. ... Ember turned silent. For a moment she found herself lost in Nux's golden eyes that were shining uncontrollably. It took her a good minute to bring her mind out of that frozen state, and once she returned, she looked at Nux and smiled playfully. "Oh, so you will attack me after you become a king stage cultivator?" Nux shook his head. "No, I will attack you once I become strong enough to kill you. I am a very petty man, General Ember. If you come after my life, I won't let you go scot-free." Nux muttered with a solemn expression on his face. Inwardly, however, he was praising himself for acting like that. He has noticed that Ember was kind of a combination of Arvina, Amaya, and Thyra. She is prideful, she is a good leader, and she can kill without blinking her eyes. Now the next question was, what kind of man would a woman like Ember prefer? The answer was simple: a wild, dangerous, strong, and petty man. A man who would match her energy. A man who would be stronger than her. A man who would defeat her. That would be the type of man Ember would like, and this is exactly how Nux would present himself in front of Ember. His methods seemed to have worked, as a wide smile appeared on the general's face, and along with that, a ferocious aura was released from her body, trying to engulf Nux without any mercy. However, no matter how experienced she was, no matter how many people she has killed before, and no matter how dangerous she is, her aura wasn't able to threaten Nux, who was stronger than her. Nux tackled her aura with an expressionless look on his face. He treated it as if it doesn't even exist. Seeing this, Ember's smile widened even more. "I really want to attack you right now," she spoke out loud, as her red eyes shined brightly. Right now her whole body was trembling in excitement. However, soon her body stopped trembling, and she calmed down. "I really want to attack you right now. However, if I do, you will become my enemy in the future. That I do not want. Therefore, I have decided to wait. I will wait until you become a king stage cultivator, and once you do, I will fight you all I want." Ember smiled excitedly. Seeing her acting like that, Nux smiled. "Be prepared to be defeated," he taunted. "Heh, we will see about that," Ember chuckled. The two of them looked at each other with smiles on their faces, and after a while another question popped into Ember's mind. "Mind if I ask you another question?" Go ahead." "Let's say you're wrong and were betrayed by your teacher. You were attacked by the Skyfall Kingdom, however, you managed to escape. What would you do after that? How will you take revenge against the entire kingdom that has an Emperor stage cultivator defending it?" Instead of answering, Nux questioned back. "What do you think the Dynast would say if I reveal my talent to him and tell him about my intentions of joining ranks of Wood's dynasty?" Ember raised her eyebrow. "You would betray your kingdom just because you want revenge?" "Betray? Why are you making it sound like I'm the one who is betraying? Aren't they the ones who attacked me first? Also, it's not like I have any attachment to the Skyfall Kingdom. As I said, I was just born there. I have no other relationship with that kingdom." "What about Arvina? What would you do with the teacher who betrayed you?"
"What about Arvina? What would you do with the teacher who betrayed you?" Ember questioned. Nux's face turned solemn, and he answered, "I will kill her as painlessly as possible." "You will kill her?" Ember raised her eyebrow. "Yes, I will." Nux didn't back down. "This is your teacher we're talking about. That is the reason why her death will be painless. What about the rest of the people who attacked you? They should pray that they had died due to other reasons before I became strong enough to go after them," Nux answered with a cold expression on his face. Ember looked at Nux for a while, and then she nodded her head in agreement. "Good, good. You did not disappoint me." Nux smiled back. "Well, I won't let my enemies live. I am not a fool. However, I will say I don't see this happening. I am sure that Teacher Arvina would not betray me." "I hope that is the case," Ember smiled. "I feel like we have become a lot closer after this conversation," Nux commented with a playful smile on his face. Ember looked at Nux and narrowed her eyes. "Do you really feel that way? Because to me,
Rather than a conversation, it feels more like me interrogating you. You didn't ask anything and continued to answer my questions." "Don't worry, I am getting a lot of answers," Nux answered with a small smile on his face. "Huh? What does that mean?" Ember frowned. However, instead of answering, Nux just continued to smile as he looked at Ember's face. "Well, if you were satisfied, then I don't have any problems either." Ember shook her head. "Indeed. Also, it is not like it is our first and last time talking alone like this, right?" Nux smiled. Ember looked at Nux for a while, and then she smiled as well. "Indeed, it won't be the last time." "All right then, since you said that we are closer to each other, let me ask more complicated questions," Ember muttered. "Being greedy, I see," Nux smiled. "I would like it if you term it as saving time." "Oh well, ask what you want," Nux nodded, and suddenly the air around the room turned heavy. Nux's eyes fell on Ember, and he saw that all that playfulness was now gone and was replaced with a solemn expression. "How did you know that the death spike trap was activated during the war?" Ember questioned. "Secret." Nux, however, shook his head and did not reply. Ember nodded and then continued. "What about the number of soldiers inside the fort? How did you know about that?" "Secret." "Where did you come from when I barged into your tent?" Ember had heard Thyra's words, and that was enough for her to deduce that at that moment Nux had just returned from somewhere. This made her curious about where Nux went. However, secret. Ember's lips twitched in annoyance. "What is your relationship with Thyra?" "Lovers, soon to be husband and wife." This time, Nux finally answered. Ember sighed in relief. He wasn't playing with her. He was still serious about answering her questions. "Why are you making advances towards me then?" she questioned. As a general leading an entire army, she was very perceptive of her surroundings and people's feelings. It would be idiotic to think that she wouldn't catch on, especially with so many hints throughout their conversations. Nux was trying to approach her. Ember knew it, and therefore she was curious about the reason. However, secret. Nux smiled. "Ah!" Ember screamed inwardly. "Secret, secret, secret! Is he playing with me?" She was frustrated. She was angry, and as if sensing her emotions, Nux muttered, "About your last question." Ember came out of her reverie and focused on his next words. Nux smiled. He then moved his face close to Ember and whispered, "You will know it soon, very soon." Ember clenched her fist and a vein popped on her head. This boy was annoying. She really wanted to hit him right now. However, she controlled herself. "All right, we have been talking with each other for a long time now. I think you are tired now. You should go back and have a good rest." Seeing her acting like that, Nux smiled. Then he nodded and stood up. "All right then, my dear friend Ember. I will take my leave now." Ember nodded. "I am looking forward to our next meeting, my dear friend Ember," Nux muttered, and then he left. Ember sighed relief as he left her tent, and Nux, well, he had a big smile on his face. Today, he gained a lot. The biggest reward he got today was the path to Ember's heart. He could now see it clearly. "Took you long enough. What were you doing? And why are you smiling like that?" As soon as Nux entered his tent, he saw Thyra looking at him with an extremely jealous look on her face. Seeing her face, Nux smiled, and then he pulled her petite body into his embrace. A small smile appeared on Thyra's face as she felt Nux patting her head gently. She hugged him back and closed her eyes. Seeing that she is calmed down, Nux finally answered her question. "Something good happened." "What? Did you find something good while experimenting with your sense ability?" And suddenly, Nux turned solemn, and he cursed. "Shit. What happened?" Thyra frowned. Nux didn't answer. Thyra narrowed her eyes and questioned, "What happened, Nux?" I forgot to experiment on my ability." Thyra's lips twitched with annoyance. Ember, my closest friend," Nux sang politely. "Huh? You're back? Why so quick?" I need you to do something for me." "What is it?" "Can you go stand in that corner and hide?" "Huh?" "Don't ask too many questions. Just do it, please." "Whatever." "Thank you." Nux smiled and Ember stood up. Then Nux tested the limits of his sensibility according to his women's instructions. Nobody spoke, and silence ruled over the place. Everyone sitting around the table had solemn looks on their faces. Suddenly, 2 more people entered the tent, and seeing the solemn looks on others' faces, the 2 of them frowned. "Today's the last day," Thyra reminded. "Ah," Nux realized. "I think there was no response," Nux muttered as he looked at those expressions on Ember's and other deputy generals' faces. "That seems to be the case." Thyra nodded her head as well. Nux and Thyra then walked forward and sat on their chairs. Seeing that everyone have arrived, Ember started. "We still haven't received any response. This confirms that Luke and his men have met an unfortunate accident, correct?" Deputy General Lawrence muttered. "Yes, I believe that they were caught," another deputy general muttered. Ember didn't say anything and remained silent. Luke was her personal subordinate that directly reported to her. She would be lying if she said that she wasn't feeling anything. However, she can't show those emotions here. Many soldiers lose their lives every day. She can't show her grief for one particular soldier. This would be unfair to other soldiers who have lost their lives. Therefore, Ember remained strong. "What about the spies sent by the dynast?" Lawrence questioned. Ember looked at the deputy general, and then she shook her head. There was no response from them as well. Does that mean that they were caught as well? No, they still have a week extension to report. We all know that it is just a false hope. If they haven't sent any response in 3 weeks, the probability of them getting caught is near to 100%. Silence, silence, silence. Again, everyone turned silent. However, no one could refute those words. Nux looked at everyone's expression and couldn't help but think. It has been a month since Ember sent a spy named Luke and some other men as spies inside the Solid Earth Kingdom. These spies were told to send a confirmation letter in 3 weeks. However, 3 weeks later, no letter was received. The dates were then extended by a week, and now that another week has passed, the deaths of those spies have been confirmed. The same thing happened with the spies sent by the royal family. They were sent by a week after Luke and the others. However, they haven't sent letters either. Most probably, they were dead as well. This was a big problem for the Woods dynasty. Lack of information, especially in war times, can be fatal. They had to do something, and they have to do it urgently. "What are we going to do now?" Lawrence questioned. "Do we send another batch of spies?" "Huh? What's the difference? Won't they die as well? It's not like we have many options here." "I don't understand. How is the Solid Earth Kingdom doing this? How are they killing every single spy that is entering their kingdom? This is simply impossible. I don't understand it either. It is as if every single soldier there is working with all his heart without thinking about anything else. Let's not talk about this right now. Thinking about our next course of action is much more important. I suggest that we talk with the dynast and think of a solution. The dynast will be able to provide us with more manpower, and his advisors might have some strategies in their mind. I have a better plan. The discussion continued like this for a long time. Nux and Thyra, however, stayed silent throughout the discussion and continued to listen. The meeting continued for 3 hours, and then Ember spoke. "All right, we have discussed quite a few plans for the future. I will give you guys 1 day to think about it a little more. Tomorrow we would have another meeting where we will be finalizing our next course of action. You all may leave now." "Yes, General." "As you command, General." The 3 deputy generals stood up and saluted. Nux, however, remained seated. The 3 deputy generals looked at him and frowned. "I have to discuss something with the general. I hope you guys will excuse me," Nux muttered. The 3 deputy generals looked at each other and nodded. This time, they didn't have any complaints. Actually, the relationship between them and Nux has improved a lot. Nux may ignore them and do things in his own way. However, when it is needed, he can perform. This was all they needed. Therefore, they didn't pick on Nux anymore either. They just saluted at Ember again and then left. Ember looked at Nux and questioned, "What happened?" "I have heard about all your plans," Nux muttered. Good job?" Nux looked at Ember with a blank look on his face. Soon, however, he continued, "As I was saying, I have heard about all your plans, and I think all of them are useless." Ember frowned, and then she questioned, "Do you have a better plan?" Nux smiled. "I do. However, it is very expensive." "How expensive?"
How much gold do you need? If it's feasible, the Woods dynasty will do everything to support you. Nux, however, shook his head. No, 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 no. It is not expensive for the Woods dynasty. Rather, it would be expensive for you, Ember Windstar. Ember frowned again, and seeing this, Nux smiled even more. So, Ember Windstar, are you willing to pay the price? It will save many of your subordinates' lives and help your dynasty greatly. Would you do it, or would you just let your men die meaninglessly? Ember, however, didn't fall for Nux's words and questioned, "What is your plan? How are you going to do something that so many people failed in? And also, what price do I have to pay?" Well, the plan is simple. Rather than sending those weak spies, I would be the one to go inside the Solid Earth Kingdom and report the situation there to you. As for the price, well, you will be owing me a big, big, big favor after this, a favor that would be very hard to repay. So, Ember Windstar, are you going to accept it?
So, Ember Windstar, are you going to accept it? Nux questioned with a small smile on his face. Thyra, who was sitting beside him, couldn't help but shake her head inwardly. He started making his move, huh? You are going to go there yourself? Do you even know how and what a spy does? Ember raised her eyebrow in doubt. Huh? Don't I just have to bring back the information I found? Nux questioned with a frown. Well, that is the most basic thing. However, it is not that easy to become a spy. You have to learn a code language that only you and the person you are sending a letter to can decipher. You have to manipulate people into giving information that you need. Even licking the target's boots isn't impossible in this job. You can't just become a spy just because you want to. You have to go through years of training. Just being strong isn't enough, Ember explained. Nux, however, shook his head and smiled. Who do you think gave you the information about the Death Spike Fort? Ember turned silent. I told you the number of soldiers inside the fort. I told you the trap they were hiding, and even saved your soldiers from dying meaninglessly. Not only that, but I indirectly wasted enemy soldiers' mana, making them weaker than normal, and I did all this within a few minutes when I wasn't even trying. What do you think would happen if I visit the Solid Earth Kingdom with the intention of spying? Nux questioned with a smile, and Ember turned silent. She couldn't help but think that Nux's words are correct. Nux had lots of secrets. Ember believed that he had a very high chances of succeeding. Thinking that Ember still wasn't convinced, Nux continued. Look, Ember, whether I fail or not depends on me. All you have to do is agree to my conditions. No matter what happens, you aren't the one taking the loss in this deal. All right, I agree. After thinking about it for some more time, Ember nodded. Nux's smile widened, and then he stood up. All right then, I will take my leave now. Rest well, General Ember. You might need it when I return. Ember frowned, unable to understand why Nux was saying these words. Thyra, however, understood the hidden meaning in an instant and couldn't help but nod inwardly. It is indeed tiring. Rest is important. Then she stood up as well. Ember looked at the two of them and stood up. When will you be leaving? Ember questioned. Tonight, Nux answered with a smile. And I will return in a week. A week? Yes, it won't take longer than that. Ember raised her eyebrow in amazement, and then she nodded. All right, whatever you say. Nux smiled, then he turned around and left the tent with Thyra following behind him. We are leaving tonight? After they left the tent, Thyra questioned. No, we are not leaving tonight. Only I am leaving. You are not going to take me with you? Thyra frowned. A solemn look appeared on Nux's face. The Solid Earth Kingdom, it is moving strangely. The fact that it was able to capture every single spy we had sent there is simply ridiculous. Going there is risky. Therefore, I will move alone, Nux answered, and from his firm tone it was clear that he won't change his mind. Thyra tried to talk to and convince him, however he still rejected her. Not only that, he even talked about this with his other women, and soon a conclusion was made. Nux should go alone. Of course, not many women thought about Thyra's well-being when they concluded this. Their main reason was jealousy. Thyra should try staying away from Nux as well. Thyra knew about this, however, since the numbers were not in her favor, she could only swallow this defeat with a bitter look on her face. Just like that, the day passed by, and soon Nux left the Woods dynasty and rushed towards the solid Earth Kingdom. The distance wasn't high, it was only around 20 kilometers. For Nux, reaching there in 10 minutes wasn't a difficult task. However, he didn't choose that path. The path he chose was a roundabout path that is 300 kilometers from the current border. This is the path used by most of the spies, since it was easier to blend in with the large number of people that use this path every day. Nux wanted to know how and why the spies were captured too easily. This was the reason why he chose this path. 3 hours later, Nux finally appeared in front of a border town, and surprisingly, there were 4 soldiers standing in front of the gates. "Who are you? Where did you come from? What is your purpose for visiting Red Sparrow Town?" a guard questioned. "I am Elijah Winkson. I work for Flaming Gold Merchant Group. I have arrived at Red Sparrow Town because I want to visit my merchant group's branch that is in Willowwood City," a merchant answered. The guard noted everything the merchant said and nodded. "You can enter." The merchant nodded and entered. However, after the merchant left, the guard's eyes turned cold and he muttered, "This is my first time seeing him. Draw his face, then go visit the Flaming Gold Merchant Group's branch and check if it is actually him." "Yes, sir." The other soldier saluted and then left. Nux, who was seeing everything from the side, frowned. These guards, they were working too hard. Just what is happening? Nux wondered inwardly. He noted this in his mind, and then he left. His first target wasn't this place, but the army camp. He wanted to see how many soldiers were positioned there. With his conceal activated, he faced absolutely no problems with any of the guards. He just dashed through and reached the solid Earth Kingdom army camp within 2 hours. After reaching the army camp, Nux activated his sense, and his eyes widened in surprise. 1, 2, 3, 43. 43 expert stage cultivators. What the hell is that? Aren't expert stage cultivators supposed to be rare? How and why are there so many expert stage cultivators here? Nux couldn't help but exclaim in his head. The number of soldiers in this army camp was similar to the Woods Dynasty's army camp. However, the strength of the soldiers was incomparably higher. There were nearly no beginner stage cultivators in this army. On the other hand, the Woods Dynasty's army was filled with those beginner stage soldiers. In the Woods Dynasty's army camp, most of the soldiers, except for the ones doing the duty, were drunk and living their days as if they were their last. Here, however, things were different. Each and every soldier was active. Of course, the ones who were sleeping were different. However, no soldier was consuming alcohol. Nux was surprised. However, his surprise did not end here. He moved forward to get an even more detailed understanding, and then he sensed 7 strong auras. 7 King Stage cultivators. If this army attacks the Woods Dynasty's army, they are all dead, Nux thought in amazement. Ember was strong. However, even she won't be able to take more than 3 King Stage cultivators at the same time. The rest of the 4 King Stage cultivators would go after the deputy generals, and the rest is easy. The Woods Dynasty's army didn't stand a chance against this army. Why did they not use their full force before? Suddenly, a question appeared in Nux's mind. No, wait, the real question is, where did they get this many strong cultivators from? Nux frowned. The Skyfall Kingdom has 8 King Stage cultivators. However, only one of them actually fights in a war. The rest don't move unless they want to. The same could be said for the Woods Dynasty. So the question was, how did the Solid Earth Kingdom recruit 7 King Stage cultivators in their army? Are the nobles of the Solid Earth Kingdom moving? Nux questioned inwardly. But why would they move? Just what is happening? Nux then used his sense and eye of discerning at the same time, and soon all his doubts were cleared. Name Marcus Kane. Age 172. Mana cultivation king. Body cultivation mortal. Race human. Occupation sect leader of the Celestial Dragon Sect. Talent high. LVL 64. HP 740/740, MP 1460/1460, STR 73, AGL 79, VIT 74, STM 73, INT 146, DEF 78, and so on. Name Fredgelord Phase. Age 185. Mana cultivation king. Body cultivation mortal. Race human. Occupation leader of the Bloody Bucket Adventurers. Talent high. LVL 62. HP 730/730. MP 1420/1420. STR 71. AGL 76, VIT 74, STM 73, INT 142, DEF 77, and so on. Sect leaders, adventurer team leaders, wandering cultivators, the solid Earth Kingdom has recruited every single one of them. But how? Nux couldn't understand. He knew that all these people value their freedom the most. This is the reason why they don't join any kingdoms and stayed neutral. No matter how many benefits one provides them, they would never join them unless they want to. Therefore, the solid Earth Kingdom recruited so many of them at the same time was unbelievable. I need to research more, Nux thought inwardly as he narrowed his eyes. What did the solid Earth Kingdom offer these people? What was so valuable that made these people give up on their freedom and become solid Earth soldiers? Nux wanted to find it out. However, since it was already morning, Nux decided to make his move a few hours later and left the army camp. His next destination was the solid Earth Kingdom. He wanted to see how the people inside the solid Earth Kingdom were living. He wanted to see the difference between the solid Earth Kingdom and the other places he had visited. He wanted to see the atmosphere inside the solid Earth Kingdom. Nux then rushed towards his destination, and soon he was inside the capital of the solid Earth Kingdom. However, after coming here, a frown appeared on his face. Other than the strict security at the gates, everything else was completely normal. According to what he had heard from the people talking with each other, this change in their security system started 1 year. 1 year ago, suddenly the checking at the gates got a lot stricter. The guards stopped taking bribes, and the one bribing the guard was noted down and his entire background was searched. If the man or woman turns out to be a criminal, or worse, a spy with no clear background, they, their families, and all the people they are close with, all of them were executed without mercy. There were no hearings in the royal courts, no extension of time, nothing. Once the crime was proven, the guilty were executed. People who were familiar with the guards questioned them about the strictness and why they were working so honestly. However, there was only one answer. Higher-ups are doing the same. We are just following them. There was no further explanation. With these changes, the crime rates reduced a lot, and eventually the solid Earth Kingdom turned brighter than normal. Therefore, no one complained about the stricter security, rather they supported it quite well. "No, I did not do anything. Where are you people taking me?" While Nux was sorting out all the information he had received, he heard a voice. He raised his head and saw a man who was being dragged out of his house by 4 guards. The man was trying to resist as hard as he could. However, with 4 cultivators surrounding him, he, as a mortal, was unable to do anything and was taken away. Nux followed behind them. Soon, however, he stopped. The guards were entering the royal palace, and since he had some doubts in his mind, Nux stayed behind and didn't enter with them. After all, it was better to be safe than sorry. Nux then decided to move around the solid Earth Kingdom, buy/steal some gifts for his women while he waited for the night, and once the sun was down, Nux returned to the army camp and started executing his plans.
Deputy General Ansel, General Armando has agreed to meet you. Please enter, a soldier reported. Deputy General named Ansel nodded, and then he walked inside the room. General Armando. He saluted at the man sitting inside the room. Ansel, it is the middle of the night and I have to wake up early in the morning. You better make this worthwhile. Yes, General. The reason why I came here is simple. I want you to follow me. Huh? The general frowned. Follow you? Yes, I have to show you something I found. Ansel nodded. Armando's frown deepened. Why didn't you bring it here? I would have if I could, Ansel answered. Armando turned silent. General, I promise it will be worth your time. What if it is not? Armando narrowed his eyes and questioned. I bet my life on it, Ansel muttered after some hesitation. Armando observed the man in front of him for a while, and then he nodded. All right, take me where you want to. Ansel smiled. Thank you for trusting me, General. I am not trusting you. Remember, your life is on the line here, Armando warned coldly. Yes, General. Ansel saluted, and the two of them then walked out of the room. After walking out of the room, Ansel stepped forward. General, it is a little far from here. Let's run. Saying that, he started running. The general didn't refuse and kept up with the deputy general's speed quite easily. 20 minutes later, the two of them appeared inside a deserted alleyway. A frown appeared on Armando's face. How much more time will it take? He questioned. Suddenly, Ansel stopped running. The general frowned and stopped as well. It is here? He questioned. Ansel, however, did not reply. I asked you something, Ansel. Ansel again did not reply. Ansel, answer me! Ah! Armando commanded him again. However, before he could even complete his command, he screamed in pain and jumped forward. With a quick movement, he turned around, and there he saw a man wearing skin-tight, black-colored clothes standing there with a dagger in his hand that was stained in fresh blood. Armando's eyes turned cold as he glanced at the man in front of him. Then he looked down at his right calf and gritted his teeth. This would be problematic. Just how in the hell did this man escape my senses? While Armando was thinking about all this, Ansel attacked him from behind, targeting his other calf. However, with Armando's senses, he reacted quickly and dodged the attack. Then a sword appeared in his hands and he slashed it at Ansel. Ansel blocked the attack with his sword. However, since the impact was too strong, his body flew back and fell on the ground. Ansel, you bastard! How dare you betray me? Do you want to die? Questioned Armando in fury. Now, General Armando, it would be problematic for you to ignore me. Armando narrowed his eyes as he looked at the man in front of him. Who are you? Armando questioned in caution. The man, however, just chuckled. What kind of assassin tells his identity just because he was asked? Why are you... All right. Let's not waste time with these stupid questions. You see, there are other important things that I have to do rather than being here. So let me end this. Armando Callan, are you willing to be a slave? Huh? Armando frowned. You are quite brave for someone who is only an expert stage cultivator, he countered with a cold face. Hearing this, Nux shook his head in disappointment. Oh, well, it seems that I would have to fight with a king stage cultivator now. Then Nux looked at Armando, and his golden eyes smiled brightly. Do not disappoint me, General Armando. Then Nux disappeared. He appeared behind Armando. However, this seemingly fast attack was blocked by Armando without any major trouble. Nux smiled, and then he increased the strength behind the attack.
11 onka. A shocked look appeared on Armando's face when he realized that he was being pushed back. How is an expert stage cultivator so strong? He questioned inwardly. At the same time, the ground under Nux's foot moved. Nux lost his balance, and using this chance, Armando pushed him back and aimed at his neck. However, as if it was boneless, Nux's body bent down backwardly, and then, with a few backflips, he created a distance between the two. Ground Tremor, a 4-star skill. That's quite an effective way to use it, Nux muttered, as he recognized the move with a single gaze. In these last few months, his knowledge has increased a lot. If earlier he was just a person from another world with no knowledge of this world, now he was a complete part of it and could be considered fairly knowledgeable. And with Amaya and Arvina's help, his knowledge about cultivations and skills has improved a lot. "You are stronger than I thought," Armando commented with a solemn look. Right now, he wasn't thinking about winning this battle. It was not that he thought he would lose for sure, but the problem was that Nux wasn't alone. If Ansel attacked with him, things might be troublesome for him. Therefore, saving his life was a priority. You were the one who fought General Ember, right? Armando came out of his reverie when he heard his opponent's sudden question. I heard General Ember used both wind and fire elements. Is that correct? Armando narrowed his eyes. Why do you care? Nothing really. I just wanted to confirm something. Confirm? Nux smiled wider as he straightened his back and a scary aura was released from his body. Yes, now answer me. Who has better control of multiple elements, General Ember or... A fireball was then shot towards Armando. The general jumped back, however a sharp spike shot out from the ground and attacked him. The general barely avoided, however before he could even gain his balance, Nux used his wind walk and appeared behind him. Me! What kind of monster is he? Just how is this possible? Is he even human? General Armando was horrified. This was supposed to be a simple job. All he had to do was defeat expert stage cultivators, if possible, capture them alive, and then return to the base with the two of them. Then he would interrogate them and would also torture his subordinate who had betrayed him. This was an easy thing to do. Then how? How in the hell did he meet this monster? People who had affinities with two elements were considered talented, right? They were God-gifted and were called a prodigy, right? Then what about this bastard? Fire, water, wind, earth. This monster had affinity with all these elements. And as if this was not enough, this bastard also had unreasonable strength, speed, defense, and most probably mana. Just how is he supposed to fight against this bastard? Oi, the strength behind your attack is reducing. Are you getting tired? The man questioned, and Armando's lips twitched in frustration. Come on, a king stage cultivator can do better than that, right? Aren't king stage cultivators supposed to be strong? Why are you so weak? You bastard, it's you who is abnormal. The general cursed in his head. However, he didn't say anything out loud. He didn't have the time to. He had to be extra attentive to fight against this man. If he loses focus for even a second, it might lead to a fatal injury. Yes, it was a difficult and hardcore fight where both parties couldn't be careless for even a single second. Or that was what the general thought. This is getting boring. Let's end this, shall we? Huh? The general frowned, and a smile appeared on Nux's face. I won't hold back anymore, okay? You were holding back? The general screamed inwardly. However, before he could even react, Nux disappeared from his vision and appeared behind him. Ugh! The general was unable to react in time, and Nux attacked his left calf. The general lost his balance and fell down. Seeing this, a kind smile appeared on Nux's face. "With this, you won't be able to run away." The general stood up, however. Ugh! Nux kicked his stomach, and the general's body flew away. Thud. "Don't move. You're only going to make this more painful for yourself," Nux muttered calmly as he stepped towards him. "All right, let me ask you again. Armando Callan, are you willing to be my slave?" "Never!" The general glared at Nux with defiance in his eyes. Bam! Nux, however, just stomped on his face, and contrary to the general's expectations, a big smile appeared on Nux's face. "Oh ho! Well, don't worry, we have a lot of time to change your mind. F-f-foo." "General?" Suddenly, the man who was looking at everything from far, Deputy General Ansel, muttered, "I would suggest that you give up. It is for your own good." Saying that, he turned silent, and his body started trembling. Seeing this, the general frowned, and seeing this, Nux smiled inwardly. The doubt was planted. Now all he had to plant was hopelessness. "Huh, you think I will be scared of little torture?" The general snorted. "You might be able to bear it for a few hours, or even a day, but can you bear it for months, years, decades? Can you bear it for the rest of your life?" Ansel questioned with no emotion in his eyes. It was as if he was dead from the inside. "Believe me, General, this man is scarier than he looks." "Your words do not scare me, traitor, and don't worry, others will find me soon enough." "They won't," Ansel answered. "Huh?" The general frowned. General Armando Callan left his room with his trusted subordinate, Deputy General Ansel. However, Ansel turned out to be a traitor, and the general was surrounded by Ember and 5 other expert stage cultivators that the Woods dynasty sent here for the sake of revenge. The general fought bravely, however, he was eventually defeated and killed. The proof of this incident will be the soldier who, by chance, saw this happening with his own eyes. Oh yes, don't worry, that soldier is the spy planted by me as well. Nux muttered with a small smile on his face. The general narrowed his eyes. "You think they will believe this ridiculous story? Of course not. They will look for proof. Therefore, they would come here where you and I fought. How many elements do you think were used in this fight?" The general turned silent, and Nux smiled. "All 4 elements were used. Not only that, but your signature move, Ground Tremor, was used as well. Combined with all that blood dropped here and the missing you, what do you think the common interpretation will be?" The general didn't reply. Then a crazed smile appeared on Nux's face as he continued. "General Armando Callan fought bravely. However, in the end, he was outnumbered and wasn't able to make it out alive. The case will then be closed and no one will look for you. After that, we would have a long chat with each other, General Armando." The general looked at Nux with a grave expression on his face. He had to run. He had to leave this place. However, he was unable to defeat this man when he was at his full strength. Just how would he defeat him now? No matter how hard he thought, the general couldn't see a way out. "Do I have no other option but to suffer from endless torture?" he questioned inwardly, and suddenly Ansel muttered, "General, I know you are loyal to the kingdom. However, this man would torture you for decades if it is required. 20 years ago, I was the same as you. However, within just 5 years, my willpower broke down. These people are too horrifying. General, don't try too hard." The general frowned. "These people." He noted these words. This is a whole organization, a horrifying organization that works in the shadow. Nothing is known about them. He had many questions in his mind. How strong are they? How many members do they have? How deep are their roots? How long have they existed for? The more he thought about it, the more solemn his expression got. Nothing, practically nothing, was known about this organization. I need to do something about it. A determined look appeared on the general's face, and seeing that look, Nux smiled inwardly. Doubt, hopelessness, and then an opportunity to become a hero. And what does a hero do? Self-sacrifice. I agree to be your slave. He decided to infiltrate this organization. Good job. Now let me ask again for confirmation. Armando Callan, are you willing to be my slave?
I am loyal. I am loyal. I am loyal. I am loyal. The general shouted inwardly, and finally the agonizing pain he was feeling subsided. The general took in deep breaths, and at the same time he looked at the man in front of him in pure terror. I hope you understand your position now. You see, it will make things easier for me and you as well. Nux smiled gently. What is to this magic? Armando couldn't help but question. You don't need to know that. Just know that this pain you felt will return the moment you think about betraying me. You be careful about what you think. Do you understand? Nux threatened. Yes. Armando's body shivered in fright, and he nodded his head. Seeing him like that, Nux smiled. Amaya, you're a fucking genius, he praised. I told you it would work. Soon he heard a voice full of pride and contentment. After being betrayed by one of his most trusted subordinates, the general's state of mind was already a mess. Meeting a monster like you who has affinity with all 4 elements had another impact on his state of mind. Then his mental state took an even deeper fall when he was defeated by an expert stage cultivator. Cutting off all his roads to escape was another blow. By now he was already hopeless. I will be tortured for the rest of my life, just like my subordinate who was tortured for 5 long years. A seed of fear was planted in his mind. However, no matter what, in the end he was still a general with a strong mentality. Just this much was not enough for him to give up. Therefore, the last step was an opportunity. What would he do when he was trapped by a cruel, mysterious organization that no one knows about? He would become a hero. He would give in to that organization and join it with a goal in his mind, a goal of gathering information about that organization and then plan against it, Amaya explained, and then a small smile appeared in Nux's face. Hero, my ass. It may sound very praiseworthy from the outside, however, isn't it just him trying to avoid being tortured? Amaya smiled. That is correct. No matter how well trained they are, no one likes being tortured. However, someone like the general won't give in just because they're scared. Their long years spent in the army won't allow that. They would need a reason, Nux muttered. And that is all you need to do your magic, Amaya smiled. I can't believe you came up with something like this, Nux complimented. Wasn't it obvious from the start? I am better than any of your other women. So, don't you dare leave me, okay? Amaya's eyes turned even darker, and a wide, creepy smile appeared on her face. It was honestly quite scary. However, leave me? Amaya, how will I even live without you? Do you think that is even possible? My love, I won't leave even if you ask me to. Amaya Skyfall, you are stuck with me. A similar creepy smile appeared on Nux's face as well. How to deal with an extra possessive girl like Amaya. Show possession, a possession even stronger than hers. Hehehe. Nux's methods worked, and a beautiful smile appeared on Amaya's face. You should return soon. I have something I want to show you, Amaya muttered. Don't talk like that. I might abandon my mission midway, Nux chuckled. I love you.
Love you too, Nux smiled, and then he looked at the general who was lying on the floor, tired and scared. All right, Armando, as I have said before, there are other much more important things that I have to do than being here and being covered in blood and sweat with dudes like you. So let's get this started. I will ask some questions and you will answer them. Is that clear? Yes, Master. All right. So, question 1. I heard that a year ago, on a certain day, the security inside the Solid Earth Kingdom suddenly turned stricter. The guards don't accept bribes anymore, officials don't slack off anymore, nobles don't take brazen actions anymore, and all the criminals were being executed without any mercy. All in all, the whole state of the Solid Earth Kingdom changed. What happened? What did you guys do? And how did everything happen so quickly? Nux questioned. It all started from the higher-ups, the general answered. Huh? Nux frowned, and then his eyes turned cold. Give me a better answer. Explain it in a better way, he ordered. It starts with the king. The king became stricter and ordered everything. And the execution was simple. If you don't follow the king's order, you will be executed. And, as if he was setting up an example, the head of the duke's house was executed because he didn't take the king's order seriously. Nux narrowed his eyes in confusion. Dukes were different from other nobles. They held royal blood flowing through their veins. Therefore, they held strong power, a power that even the royal family had to consider about. Executing the duke, it wasn't considered a wise move. There were no repercussions? Nux questioned. There were not, Armando answered. And then he continued. After this incident, other nobles took the king's orders very seriously. Since most of the officials came from the noble families, they stopped slacking off as well. And seeing them, the officials who didn't have noble backgrounds started to change as well. The same happened with the guards and others. Their higher-ups had turned stricter, and the punishment for offenses had become crueler. Therefore, they changed as well. From the top to the lowest of the positions, everyone changed. And that is how the Solid Earth Kingdom changed, Armando answered. Nux thought about it for a while, and then another question popped into his mind. What about other generals? I noticed that they are not from the Solid Earth Kingdom, but are from different sects and adventurers' parties. How did you recruit them? That was Lord Hermes' doing. Huh? Hermes? Who's that? I've never heard that name before.
Huh? Hermes? Who is that? I have never heard that name before. Nux questioned with a surprised look on his face, and suddenly Armando's face turned solemn. Hermes Lysander, the grandfather of Alexius Lysander, the current king of the Solid Earth Kingdom. He is also known as the strongest man inside the Solid Earth Kingdom, Armando informed, and Nux raised his eyebrow in amazement. Is he an Emperor stage cultivator? Nux questioned. Yes, Armando answered, and at the same time he was shocked. Emperor stage. Not many people knew about this stage. It was a national-level secret. Does this mysterious organization know about the Emperor stage cultivators as well? Armando questioned inwardly. Then he thought a little more about it and realized this man knew about other generals' origin. He knew that they didn't belong to the kingdom. Knowing about the Emperor stage cultivators wasn't shocking. The real shocking thing is his expression. The general thought inwardly as he looked at Nux's calm face. He couldn't believe that Nux was so calm even after hearing about the Emperor. Wait. Suddenly the general thought of something, and the more he thought about it, the stronger his doubt got. Does this mysterious organization also has an Emperor stage cultivator backing them up? The general's eyes widened in surprise. Just how is this organization so strong? And why are they hiding even though they're so strong? What are they planning? Armando's body shivered in fear. I understand it now. Suddenly Nux spoke, as if he was enlightened.
The reason why the Duke's family didn't take any actions even though their head was killed, the reason why everything went so smoothly, the reason why the king was able to take such a strong stance, and the reason why wandering cultivators, the sect masters of different sects and strongest of the adventurers decided to join the Solid Earth Army. Now I understand everything. The reason why everything happened and proceeded so smoothly was because of that Hermes Lysander, an emperor stage cultivator. He must be the one behind everything, am I right? Nux questioned, and Armando nodded in agreement. Then Nux frowned. Why is he doing this, though? He questioned. From what I've heard, according to a treaty signed between the four strongest powers, Emperor stage cultivators aren't allowed to participate in any events happening around the world, not until the fate of their kingdom depends on it, of course. Isn't that correct? He even knows about the treaty. The general just gave up on being surprised. Actually, Nux didn't know about this. Even Amaya didn't know about a treaty like this existing between the four kingdoms. It was Ember who told him about this. Yes, that is correct. An emperor stage cultivator cannot take part in worldly events, especially the events related to the war between two kingdoms. If they do, the other three kingdoms would join hands to destroy that country. This is called the Treaty of Eternal Peace, which was signed in order to maintain the peace of the world, Armando explained, and Nux frowned. Then isn't Hermes breaking this treaty by recruiting all these people and affecting the war between the two kingdoms? Is he not scared about being surrounded by the other three kingdoms and his kingdom being destroyed? Nux questioned. Hearing this question, a small smile appeared on the general's face. Committing a crime is wrong. Getting caught is. So you're betting on the fact that the other kingdoms won't know about it? That is correct. You see, when it comes to matters like this, coming up with a decision is much more complicated than you think. Even if you take me to another kingdom and make me admit that Lord Hermes is making his move and breaking the treaty, all the Solid Earth Kingdom has to do is deny those claims, and there is nothing you or I can do about it. Nux frowned. He didn't have much knowledge on matters like these. However, even he could understand one thing. The Solid Earth Kingdom's actions are too bold. Committing a case isn't hard. They can state that the general is lying and deny their claims. However, the sudden changes inside their kingdom cannot be explained in any other way. Actually, the other three kingdoms don't even need to prove that the Solid Earth Kingdom is guilty. All they need is a reason to work together and destroy one kingdom. Nux was no expert. However, even he can feel it. Something else, something much more different was going on right now. It is as if everything is a scheme where this war between the Solid Earth Kingdom and Wood's dynasty is just a small event that would give birth to another bigger event. Nux didn't like this. Also, for some reason, he didn't feel safe inside the Solid Earth Kingdom anymore. Therefore, he decided to return. He already got what he wanted inside this kingdom. Now it was time to return. Nux then turned towards his new slaves and ordered, "All right, this is enough for now. If I need anything else in the future, I will contact you. For now, you two can go and live your normal life. Of course, don't forget to inform me if something major happens, all right?" He's planting us as his spies. Armando understood Nux's intentions. However, there was nothing he could do about it. He knew that Lord Hermes might have a way to undo this strange magic. However, even if he thinks about that possibility, that agonizing pain returns and tortures him. Therefore, he had already given up on this thought. For now, he would do as this man says. "Yes, master." Nux then turned around, but just as Nux was about to turn around, Ansel questioned, "Master, how are we going to return? What will we say to someone who asks where we went? How do we explain the general's injuries? How do we explain the marks of a big fight here? What if they doubt us?" Nux paused. Then he turned around and looked at Ansel. "You need a reason, huh?" A small smile appeared on his face.